record.
All right, carry on.
So anyway, the boat might not be as useful as far as the whole of this adventure is concerned. It's just a matter of
Right.
if we thought that would be something cool to have, that we have our own sort of pimped out elven sailboat. Now, the total value, if we decided to take the pearls and mithril ingots, so everything we got was basically converted to a gold piece value, everybody would get 2257.29, including a share that one share of that would go to party savings. And then at that point, you could, I guess, try to find whatever it is you wanted to buy
Right.
with that money. Obviously, it would be less than that monetarily if we took the boat.
So we'd be able to sell the boat for at least break even.
Well, potentially, from what the people that we've talked to, the boat might be worth even more than than the item we're trading for it.
Just not here or not.
Just not right here, just not right now. So it's one of those deals where we can get 6680 worth of basically what amounts to is cash because it's gems. Or we could get a boat worth, say, 10K, but then it would be up to us to find somebody who's willing to give us 10K for the boat.
Oh, it's the cash or the boat. It's not a little less cash.
Right.
In the
No,
boat.
it's the cash or the boat.
Cash.
See, the boat would be cool and it'd be a nice
Why don't we wait to
character
decide
building thing.
until we find what we're gonna do right now? Because I'm sure Les has a hook somewhere that he's gonna throw at us. And we might or might not be able to use a boat on that, so.
Right. And I think right now, at least the way I'm feeling, this so far has been a little bit light magic adventure, so I'd rather go more for cash so we can start to spend that to kind of catch up to where characters at this level should be.
Well, and I could put together the numbers without that one magic item being sold and hold off on the boat or cash decision. I mean, it's up to everybody. It's up to the group.
Which just seems like a whole lot more cash. What was it? I'm sorry, what was the total if we go?
Over $2,000.
It's 2257.29 each.
I think Gordon's right. I think we should give it a minute and not decide right now. Decide when we have to. Can we do that?
Yeah, that sounds fine with me.
Right
One
when
thing that
we
makes
need
me
it.
nervous is purely from a meta gaming standpoint. We're in the 5th level range. I still don't have a magic weapon, and I don't know how many people in the party have a magic weapon. We're gonna get to the point very soon where magic is kind of required.
I just finally got my first magic item, and that was only because
Right.
Roger was absent.
Well, our faith.
Hey, look, wait a second. I give you guys tons of magic items and you sell them. So that's not on me. It's not like I'm a stingy guy here. I'm giving you guys all kinds of stuff.
Wait a minute. I sold 3 magic items.
There's
Yeah.
tons of magic items in there. Magic weapons and masterwork armor, all kinds of stuff.
Masterwork's not magic.
That's
It's
not,
kind of magic.
I've
Well,
got
I do like the dry
one magic
cleaning
item.
clothes.
2 if you count my potion I got. So I'm just saying, the money wouldn't be bad, so we could at least start buying. You know, I wouldn't mind having a magic weapon, not so much for the bonus, but just because I know eventually we're going to start hitting things that have DR against if you don't have magic, or
I have a whole portal wand. I do have that.
can't be hurt other than with magic. So
So I don't know that we're necessarily going shopping this game. So
right.
I don't think that there's any issue with holding off on, just from an aside, hold off on that one magic item to make the decision for the captain, whether we're taking the boat or the mithril and pearls. And then I can hand out the rest of the money and we'll go make that last deal when we decide which avenue we're going to take.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that we can take this boat, get to the next place we're going to, and then sell it in another location and make another $3,000, I mean, easily, if that's the way it ends up that we're going to be traveling. No point spending money to rent a boat when we can buy one and then sell it wherever we arrive at.
Having owned a boat, that's very optimistic.
Yeah.
We're gonna sell it for a profit. Oh, God.
Right. Look at those landlubbers. They don't know about boating. Offer them bottom dollar. But I'm good with waiting.
Okay, so let's see here. So 1303 to everybody.
1303.
Yeah,
Oh, so we're not waiting. We're doing it now?
no, that's not including
The item you're talking about.
the item that I'm talking about, that we're being offered either 6680 worth of materials or a boat. So that's taken
1303 in gold or 1303?
gold piece equivalent value, because some of
Okay.
it's in gems,
Yeah.
some of it's in gold pieces.
All right, so you're not going to sell this stuff to the to that guy for the boat. You're not going to trade it for the boat,
We're
or you're going to take the money.
Not yet.
At this point, we haven't made that decision yet. So what we're
Okay.
doing now is I put together everything but that sphere and cashed it out and gave everybody their gold piece value for their share. And then the sphere, which is the one item that the captain wants that has to do with the decision between a cash-like substance or a boat. We'll make that decision here before too long and then finish out that deal if that's okay. That work for you?
Works for me.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
All right. Other baggage. Okay. All right. So let's talk about what happened last time. There was a lot that happened last time. And so we need to sort of go over it to figure out and to go back into the idea of what will happen this time. So you guys arrived in Seaquen. And it's been about 2 weeks since the fall of Gate Pass. So you guys have gone quite a distance. You've had many adventures. You've made significant enemies of the Fae, and obviously going to revenge, that kind of stuff. You guys got to Vidor, and then you guys got to Seaquen. And you were able to finally, at long last, deliver the case of documents to the military authorities at the Lyceum. Which you did, and you were able to talk both with a couple of people. So the first person being Captain Rambouche, who, for lack of a better term, probably would be best considered the head of security for the Lyceum. And so he looked at the materials in there and examined the case and brought in his superior, General Steckert, who would best be categorized as sort of chief of military operations for Seaquen, a Mwangi. And they checked out the case and that kind of stuff. And based on the contents, which they examined in fair depth, they decided to reach out to Simeon, the headmaster of the Lyceum and the de facto head of the sort of council that rules the town. Now, Simeon turns out to be a pretty good guy. He's not interested in power for power's sake. He's certainly not interested in exercising a bunch of, being a political player. He's more like a school professor who sort of has been thrust into this position by circumstances, but he's doing his best. And so he decides to call what they call a war council. So they call this war council to discuss the contents of the case and talk about the various and get feedback from the various kinds of constituencies among the people of Seaquen, their advocates and that kind of stuff. And we got to meet a variety of different people who have various kinds of interests, various kinds of opinions and animosities going on inside the thing. The first guy we met was Lorb Vatbird, the dwarvish head of the essentially police force. He's the magistrate. Here, why don't we just do this real quick? Get ourselves a look at these guys. Why don't we? So let's do that. Hold on just a second. All right. All right. So the first guy you met was Vortbird, and he is essentially the head of the police force. And his deal was, he's like, look, we have all these refugees and they're causing problems. They're causing logistical problems. They're causing crime problems. They're causing hygiene problems. And his proposal to the council was basically like, let's go through these guys. We'll pick out the best of the best and create sort of a new paramilitary police force for Seaquen, and essentially go about the business of investigating all refugees, both current and incoming, to see about where their loyalties lie and whether or not they're going to be a burden on the city or if they're going to be a asset to the city. And basically he's like, look, we all know how Gate Pass fell, right? It was the Sargavans got agents into Gate Pass. They co-opted or corrupted people in power. And when the day came that they were like, it's time to go, those people basically opened the gates for them. We don't want to end up being another Gate Pass. And as you guys are sort of sitting in the back, you're kind of like, well, but we're from Gate Pass. We didn't just hand over things. It was kind of a fight. But he speaks of it as like it was fait accompli, that there was, basically the people of Gate Pass just sort of gave up. And he's like, we can't have that here. We've already got a couple of thousand refugees in town. This is essentially tripled the normal population of this village, and he's like, they're causing problems, and we need to start figuring out. We don't want to end up in the same place that Gate Pass was. And undoubtedly, within the refugees that are coming here to Seaquen, there are Sargavan agents. It's their method. It worked at Gate Pass. It worked in other places. It will work here if we don't do something about it. And so he's basically proposing we need to interview, sequester every single refugee, both ones that are here already and ones that are incoming, and we need to make sure where their loyalties lie, and that those of them that we can trust, we should inculcate into our security apparatus, and those of them we can't trust, we should frankly eject from the city. We shouldn't take them in. So he came at that, got a few raised eyebrows, but I mean, to a certain sort of thing, he made some good points. Obviously, this is what happened at Gate Pass, and you guys were somewhat sympathetic to that. But he's the idea of a paramilitary police force that is entrusted with determining who is and who is not loyal, to either to Seaquen or Sargava. It doesn't sit great with a lot of people.
It sounds horrifying.
Then they talk to Sideneth, and Sideneth is a hydromancer, and essentially he's the guy in charge of the harbors, and he's the primary liaison with the elvish people who are working with who are helping to bring in to interdict ships that are coming in. They're bringing in supplies, that kind of stuff. You'll remember that the elves have essentially surrounded the village of Seaquen, from the sea, and you can see it's a blockade, but not a blockade, in that it's helping people to get to Seaquen, processing them in, making sure that supplies are being brought in, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of elvish ships out around the peninsula, and it's Sideneth's job to sort of help to manage the traffic coming in and out of both harbors, the North and South harbors, and to sort of liaise with the elves. Basically, he's like, look, the North Harbor is getting a lot crowded. We're using the South Harbor a lot more. We need people to help. We need stevedores. We need people who are skilled. He goes, I'm doing a lot of work with the Ostelines, which is a group of about 200 human and half elf sailors and merchants that are sort of refugees, sailors and merchants from other places. He goes, I'm recruiting as hard as I can, but there's just simply not enough. There's only 200 of them, and we're trying to figure it out. So he's like, look, I need more people. It's getting it's going to get worse than it gets better. Harbor security is going to be tough for us, and frankly, we don't have interdictory boats. We don't have people that we can count on to board incoming ships and look for hidden refugees or stowaways, or frankly spies. We just don't have the resources right now, and we need those. And he seems pretty reasonable too. I mean, that kind of stuff. Then you talked to Xavier's stood up and basically says, look, we're willing to, and Xavius represents the what are called the Dacenes. And Dacenes stems from Lady Timor Dacenes' domain. She was attacked by the Sargavans very early in the war, and the refugees that Xavius represents, about 400 humans and dwarves that essentially were her retainers. She was a very wealthy noblewoman. She had a large domain that she, essentially a count. And she was attacked very early in the war. She was killed, and her retinue, her retainers were driven from that land. Xavius is the leader of them. He's an older dwarf, but basically he's saying, look, we want to be the point of the spear against the Sargavans. He's like, there's 400 of us. We can probably field 250 warriors, and these are proven soldiers into the field. But rather than as a single army, he proposed essentially forming up cadres, essentially commando units, that would go out and conduct guerrilla raids against the Sargavan units. And there's some people who are like, yeah, that could work. He's like, look, we should harry them where, we shouldn't wait here for them to show up. We need to get out in the field and start pulling their teeth and getting some revenge. And he's like, look, we don't have the numbers to go out there and fight Sargava toe to toe in the plains. We need to do guerrilla warfare and do it that way. And there's a certain logic to what he says. Then you guys up came Laura Beck, Laura Beck Adelsberg, who is a paladin, and she represents the Ostanes. I'm sorry, she represents the Cinderies, which is a very loose confederation of about 400 humans, half orcs, and gnomes who've been driven from various places of, from the Sargavan plains into Seaquen. And largely, it's a very contentious place. And she's basically saying, look, we have to solve our local problems first. We have to get food. We have to get more water. We have to find reasonable and rewarding work for these people. We have to help them solve their differences, because right now I've got people fighting with each other because of religious differences, because of magical differences, because of various kinds of sympathies and that kind of stuff. And she's like, look, we can talk about secret police and guerrilla warfare all we want, but until we solve the problems that are posed to us by the fact that the refugees are here, and simply there's not enough resources, until we solve those problems, we're not going to be able to foment an effective defense, let alone an effective offense against the Sargavans. They're just too organized. So about that time that Laura Beck is done, a whole group of elves show up. They fly in, and they are led by the elvish noble Shalosha. Shalosha is, and I don't have it handy, but she is the daughter of a very powerful elvish tribe from the plains. And basically she comes in and says, look, sorry to interrupt your little war council here, but the reality is all of you are, she doesn't say this because she wasn't privy to this information, but she basically says, look, all of these things that you guys are talking about are too little too late, right? Or small potatoes. You've got a Sargavan army that's headed here. You are divided, untrained, poorly equipped, badly supplied, with nowhere to run and no way to run there if you had a place to run. You've got a limited level of military experience. Here's what my father proposes. Basically, you're going to turn over the control of the city to us, to the elves. We've got 17 more ships coming, and with those 17 warships, we're going to weld the surrounding group of elvish ships into an actual blockade, a defensive blockade. And due to the fact that we're bringing the heat, you need, my father's basically said, look, the proposal on the table is we will take over this city. My father will assign de facto commanders here. You guys will follow our lead, and we will do the heavy lifting of getting Seaquen ready for battle.
What's her motivation? Why are they doing this? Is that to protect some kind of income here? Or
Well, not so much income. I think the elves and I think the elves have been, so keep in mind that the boats around Seaquen right now are elvish ships overwhelmingly, and they are helping to sort of process refugees. They're bringing in supplies, that kind of stuff.
But
So
why?
the
Why
elves
are
have,
they even doing that? Why are they even doing that? I guess I'm questioning the whole motivation.
they're friends of the people. You know, they don't like the Sargavans any more than anybody else does, and they're trying to
Okay.
help support this place because they
Okay.
understand that, you know, I mean, they're not enemies of these people. They're allies and trading partners with them. You guys have met some of the elves of the plains as you guys were traveling across from here before you got to the fire forest, and they were like, look, we're harrying the Sargavans where we find them, you know, that kind of stuff. And they were like, look, here I think, did they give you horses? I can't remember if they gave you horses or not.
Yeah, they did.
Did they? Okay, so they gave you horses and said, look, if you're heading that way, this is the direction. I know that everything's, you know, people are regrouping at Seaquen to try and figure out what's going on. Basically what Shalosha's point is, and she's speaking on behalf of her father, right, who is the supreme leader of this large elvish tribe or elvish clan. And she's basically seeing like, look, you guys are getting, from a point of view of readiness, from the point of view of supplies and stuff like that, things here are getting worse and worse. And unless somebody steps in and does something positive, you guys are going to continue arguing, continue bickering, and not getting things done and not making it right. And everybody has their own thing that they want to get done and all this other stuff. And the Sargavans are going to show up here with an army, and they're going to utterly destroy this because you guys won't be prepared. So in order to save Seaquen, they're essentially demanding that this council turn over all terrestrial power over to the elves, who will prepare the city for war.
And just temporarily, or has she not been clear about that?
She hasn't been clear about it. So she didn't say temporarily. She didn't say until the war is done. She basically said, turn it over to my father, my father and I, and you know, so that we can, you know, and this went unspoken. It was basically like, so we could save you from yourselves, because you're gonna fuck this up.
I find her mildly offensive. But
Well, it's, if in the event that you find her mildly offensive, the dwarves, including Xavius and we're just gonna call him Norbert, both lost their minds about this. They were like, where do these elves get off? Dwarves don't get along with elves in the best of days. And to have a bunch of elves just roll into their war council and say, hey, look, this is all very nice, but now the grown-ups are going to take over.
Right.
That didn't sit well with any of those guys. And it frankly didn't sit well with a lot of people. The interesting part is, even though it was all elves, at least the interesting part to General Steckart. Now, General Steckart is of Mwangi extraction. And basically, he came over to you guys afterward, and he's like, look, I don't know whether this is a good plan or not, what Shalosha is proposing. But the fact that their banners, their elvish banners, have the sigils of Mwangi, of the Mwangi on them, various Mwangi sigils on them, is indicatory, at least in part, that these elves are also in alliance with the Mwangi, which are my people. Now he goes, look, I've lived here for a long time, but you know, although the Mwangi, and we talked about this kind of before, the Mwangi as a group are not a group, right? There's hundreds of different clans and tribes and towns and cities that are sort of loyal to themselves. It's like when you say, and the analogy I made last time was, when you say the Mwangi, it's sort of like saying the Americans, right? You know, Americans are full of tribes and clans and contentious behavior and different politics and different regions and different all different stripes and sorts. And the Mwangi are very similar in that there's no sort of universal Mwangi. There's 1,000 different subgroups. And Steckart couldn't identify specifically the subgroups that those sigils represented because he didn't see them clearly and he was sort of far away and that kind of stuff. But the fact that it was obviously a Mwangi sign means that they've come to some sort of alliance. And further, it may be that the Mwangi are supportive of the elves as far as this plan goes, which adds another element to the whole thing. So the elves then sort of are like, you have like 72 hours to sort out your shit and let us know officially that you're turning over the control of the city to us. And when there were some questions and various kinds of things, and actually Shalosha actually seemed kind of sympathetic to the point of view of the Seaquen Council. As she sort of was trying to address their questions and things like that, you definitely got the opinion as you were sort of watching that Shalosha's previous pronouncements were essentially her speaking what her father asked her to say. And you also further got the idea that maybe she did not 100%, she wasn't necessarily 100% on board with this was the best way to go, but she was doing her duty to her father and her clan. By coming here, and certainly she would be
zealous about this then.
No, she absolutely wasn't a zealot about it, but she was basically, I mean, the vibe you guys got was that she was delivering a message, and it was a message at the same time. I mean, you guys are half elves, right? And several of you, so she's not gonna, if her father, who is the head of the clan, says that this is the way this is gonna go, she's not gonna go against that. Now she might be sympathetic to the arguments, the counter arguments that the Seaquen War Council would make, but that doesn't mean that she's going. I mean, she will. She is an elvish warrior of some sort, and she will do what she is commanded to do. In the manner that she was commanded to do it. Now, why her sympathies may be, she may have certain sympathies with the Seaquen people. It would be foolish to presume that those sympathies would mean that she would change her mind about any of this or fail to carry out the orders of her father. That absolutely will not happen, at least in your experience with elves of this nature. So yeah, so there's like, I think it's 72 hours or something like that. I'll check here amongst the talk, but there's a lot. So suddenly a lot of things going on and a lot of political things. And then in the background, of course, is the idea that, that the Sargavans are on the way. I mean, one of the things that they pointed out was that, the Supreme Inquisitor of the Scourge is essentially a woman named Leska, is essentially in charge of the Sargavan army. So previously the Scourge, the Sargavan Scourge was sort of like a, how to put this, it was sort of like a group of extremists within the Sargavans that had sympathy amongst certain elements of the Sargavan government, but did not have the sort of power or influence needed to sort of make their will the law of the land, right? But this war has definitely turned up to 11 the support that the Scourge has, to the fact that now this Supreme Inquisitor Leska has a tacit control over the armies, and is essentially serving as the field marshal for the Sargavan armies as they move through this region, Sargava, against the cities and pacifying the region essentially. And they're as they go through. I mean, as you guys made your way to the Fire Force, you ran into, I think a couple of times you ran into Sargavan Scourge Inquisitor groups that had ranged much farther afield than the army itself, and were taking out known magic users. So remember, the Scourge are primarily a group of divine magic users, and what they're purging is arcane magic from these regions. So there were essentially hit squads were sent out to locations where known magic users were living, and they were sent to go kill them. And you guys ran into, I think, at least one and potentially a couple, if I recall correctly, of these hit squads that, you know, went out to try and get these people. So who knows what's happening to magic users? You know, you also learned later, Wraith and Arendar went into the purple zone where they met up with Argel, who was a ale seller down there, and they got some information out of Gate Pass, and basically they found out that Cabal had holed up in the magic school at Gate Pass, your old magic school, Vondram, and had eventually come out with a cadre of fellow magic school students and graduates to fight the Sargavan Scourge and to fight the Sargavan army, and delivered some, I mean, killed a fair amount of people. They fought with a ferocity only a group of magic users who have sort of like, what's the old Stephen King phrase? There's nothing quite so fearsome than a man who's not afraid to die. And so basically Cabal led an army of magic users and magic user students out against the Sargavans, and was doing well, killed a lot of their army, destroyed a lot of things, but was ultimately taken down just by sheer force of numbers and you know, concentrated magical attacks. Was eventually taken out by a red dragon who you know, once his protections had been stripped from him, he was incinerated, and there was no survivors of that particular attack. So Vondram, the world that you knew at Gate Pass, at the school, at Cabal's school, is no more. I mean, those people that were still there and didn't get out are now had died in the attack, which was sad for you.
Horrible.
And so, interesting war council, a lot of things going on, and then you guys got taken aside by two people. One by Giorgio, a hobbit who came to you and said, "Hey, look, you know, war and pestilence and poverty and starvation notwithstanding, I represent the theater guild mistress Eliket, who we've just done a new play. We want to cordially invite you guys, since you're new in town, to our theater boat in the North Harbor. We're doing a play, and we'd love to go." And finally convinced you guys to attend this play. It's going to be day after tomorrow. You know, they're already doing the play at the theater, but she's like, "Look, you know, beforehand, you know, my mistress, the guild mistress, wants to meet you guys. I mean, you've just arrived in Seaquen, and obviously have become quite swiftly very important people here, you know, who, you know, suddenly sitting in war councils and things like that. Obviously, you know, we'd like to make your acquaintance and that kind of stuff. So here are the free tickets. We'd love to see you. It's 7 o'clock 2 days from now. We'll see you there." And then Simeon, the headmaster of the Lyceum, basically cut you guys out. He's like, "Don't leave yet. I need to talk to you guys." He basically talked to you. He's like, "Look, I need your help, you know." And he says, Katerina, who you guys met at the who had been imprisoned at the Hags camp in there that you guys think, you probably remember her as Bucket of Sass.
Yeah.
You know,
That's exactly what they were thinking.
Simeon sort of explains to us, like, she is a very trusted advisor of mine, and she basically said that you guys you know what you're doing, and you've come across I mean, you fought your way here essentially, you know, that you guys are you know, you guys could be great assets to this city. And so I'm basically saying, look, if that, I believe that to be the case, and I would want to say, I would like you to work with me to sort of behind the scenes to help me sort of keep a handle on this thing. And he's like, "You saw the war council. You saw how much contentiousness is. Now we have these elves here who want to take over, and you know, it's going to cause a lot of problems. And if you would, I'd love it if you guys just sort of be to a certain extent, my eyes and ears out in the city, and let me know if you come across anything that I need to know that'll help me sort of manage the city. He gives you the impression that he's very genuine about this, that, despite him being sort of a professorial sort of fellow and not a politician, there he is right there, and not a politician by any means. He really does want what's best for Seaquen and the Lyceum, and he feels like you guys can be helpful in that regard, and he hopes that you will help him. To that end, he's like, look, I wouldn't ask you to do this for me personally, but just for no reason, but because of the information that you guys have brought back, we think that we're going to be able to overcome the problems with teleportation that we've seen, and because of the documents that you guys brought. And one of our first things we're going to set up is we're going to try and set up a teleportation node at Gate Pass. Now, this is going to be kind of hard because we have, because of Gabal, and Gabal's school has essentially been overrun, and Gabal himself killed along with many of the mages. But we're essentially sending people there in secret, if this teleportation works, to set it up. And they basically said, look, is there any messages that you want to get back to people at Gate Pass? Is there anybody you want us to check on, or even bring back maybe to Seaquen, as sort of recompense for you bringing us this information? And you guys didn't really know anybody, but Wraith and Arendar were like, our mother still lives in the Elvish Quarter. If she's alive, if you could find her, I'd love it if you guys brought her back. And he agreed that if possible, he would do exactly that. Considering, in consideration for you guys sort of being his eyes and ears in the city. And that's kind of where we ended up. So all that being said, questions about what's going on, things of that nature. Is there things you guys need clarification on or anything like that?
I did miss, what was the bottom line for Xavios? I understood who he was, who he represented and all that, but what was his position on everything?
So Xavius, and I could actually reread the material that Xavius brought.
Oh, you can just nutshell it. It's okay. I just missed that part when you kind of wrapped up what his position was.
So he was the head of, so there was a large sort of patch of land in Middle Sargava that was essentially run by a woman named a Chalaxian noble named Lady Timor Deseni. And it was a large, essentially roughly equivalent to a county, where there would be a count in charge of it. But she never took that title. She was always just the Lady Timor. But basically, it was an enormous domain that she had many, many retainers. The very early stages of the Sargavan military effort, one of the first things that they did was attack Lady Timor's domain and essentially kill Lady Timor and drive her retainers onto the road. Basically took over her land and things. A lot of resources there. It was largely agricultural, so they took over a lot of resources. She had a pretty significant group of military guys. Right now in the city, in the refugee portions of the city, in the red area is where Lady Timor's retainers have sort of set up their own camp. There's about 400 of them, primarily humans and dwarves, and largely it's probably the best organized area of refugees in the entire refugee quarter. These are people who were mostly warriors. They ran a tight ship. Lady Timor ran a tight ship. But they were very, they loved her. And basically he was, I don't know. He never really said what his job was for her, but you get the impression that maybe he was the head of her military or a senior sort of security consultant to the lady or that kind of stuff. But anyway, basically he's like, we want revenge on the Sargavans, and we understand military matters well enough that we understand that 400 people or 1,000 people are not going to match the military might that Sargava is bringing to bear. So we can't meet them in the field head on. So he basically proposed setting up with with the Desceni. They refer to themselves as the Desceni. With them as the sort of core group, groups of commandos, essentially small platoons that will range out into the field and harry Sargovan supply lines, kill outriders, try and basically do all the functions of essentially conduct a guerrilla war against the Sargovans as they try to approach Seaquen.
Got it. Okay, that's what I had missed. Thank you.
Aren't
Yeah.
the Chilaxians kind of aligned with the Sargovans, or did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, they are, but that doesn't necessarily mean they won't kill each other. Your guess is, and based on the size and sort of, let me see if I can do the regional map here. Hold on.
Are they looking to us for our input, or that we just happen to be sitting in the?
Well, no. So, yes. So you were actually invited by the headmaster Simeon to sit in on the war council because it was the case of documents that you guys brought here through thick and thin, and they've heard your story about sort of your trials and tribulations that you've had to deal with to get that case here. It was that case that basically prompted the war council, and they were like, look, you should sit in on it because you guys were the guys who brought this information here. You can provide a certain level of knowledge and expertise on this kind of stuff. Obviously you guys are not your average refugee in that you have fought your way through here, rather than sort of just on the traditional supply lines as groups of refugees. So I mean, you've obviously got skills, and basically Simeon was like, you should. He didn't say you're members of the council now, but he's like, you should sit in on this meeting because you guys have insight into this material that we might not otherwise have. And you guys can answer questions for some of the people that do.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Other questions?
Why do we park on driveways and drive on parkways?
Oh my God.
That is one of the mysteries of the English language. And I think it has to do with the fact that that English is not a language, but it's three other languages that are sort of in a trench coat, having beaten the crap out of other languages and taken all their stuff.
Just checking. No questions.
Okay. All right. So that being the case, I mean, we sort of jump in here at the point where the war council is now broken up. There's this sort of like elvish, well, to call it a proposal is sort of like doing it here. But basically she said, the elvish woman basically says, look, my father, Lord Shahaledel, knows that some of the nations whose ambassadors stand here would prefer that the elves fail. But what they don't realize is that they're guaranteeing their own doom. You have to admit that faith in all the people, having faith in everyone here is it doesn't exist. So we're sending a fleet. 17 of our warships are coming to this peninsula. We're going to surround it from all directions, and we're going to protect it from hostilities. But due to that, and because we're going to protect you guys, we should be put in charge. Basically, we're inviting you to join us. As we know that there are allies in the city, and we can't risk being betrayed. So that basically we're asking that you hand over control of the city to the fleet, so that we can, and the way she put it was checking the purity of your allies' spirits. And he basically said Admiral Tenshanth will serve as the provisional governor. And she didn't say when that was going to happen, but it was presented as fait accompli.
Is that kind of the same, along the same lines of not trusting us the same way the first guy felt like he
Kinda.
Oh,
A little. Yeah, it's a little that way. I mean, the first guy was basically saying, look, we have met the enemy and they are us, right? We have bad guys in our midst. We have crime. And so for Zoidberg, which I'm going to continue to say is his name. Let's go back here. So for Vortberg, he's basically saying, look, we've got crime, we've got hygiene, we've got problems with people, we've got lawlessness. We need to sort out law and order in this town. And we need Huh? Yeah. And we need to sort out law and order. We need to get everybody working the right way. And if we find people who are not willing to do that or who cannot bring some sort of value to us, we should eject them. We can't have drags on our supply lines. We can't have drags on our society. We can't abide crime. We can't abide poverty, lawlessness, that kind of thing. So he's like, look, let me set up some paramilitary police forces, and we'll get the refugees sorted out. And then we'll know what to do. Then we'll be able to, once we have that sorted out, we'll know what to do next. And I guess to a certain extent, it is roughly analogous to what the elves are proposing. The elves are basically saying, look, we've been responsible largely for getting you your supplies and making sure that you're safe, to making sure that, any Sargavan infiltrators have been stopped at the water. But yeah, this work, basically she's like, look, you're gonna continue to talk about this stuff until it's too late to talk anymore, and the Sargavans will have won. So we're taking over. We're going to take over this. We're going to set up a proper blockade with the ships that are already here, plus another 17 vessels, warships, and Admiral Telnath is going to take over as provisional governor of Seaquen, and we're going to run this thing. And we need to, because you guys aren't capable of doing it, was the implication.
What's their stand on the refugees? The elves.
Well, that was part of, so she didn't specifically say during the thing, but it's been the elvish efforts that are bringing in, tons of supplies, that are bringing in fresh water, that are bringing in food, that are bringing in medicine, that are providing healers. So one might think that they're pro-refugee, that they want to help, because they've been helping already for the last 2 weeks since hostilities essentially opened up. But now they're saying, look, you guys are gonna screw this up. We're on a war footing here. We've done this before, so we're taking over.
So the only person I would have questions for are the elven daughter that left.
Okay, yeah, she took off.
Do we know where she took off to?
She just flew back out of the building. So it looked like she was heading north. So your guess is that either she's staying on one of the ships in the near the North Harbor in that blockade there area, somewhere in this area right here, or she's flown back to whatever camp they've made. It's doubtful that they've flown all the way back to the plains. It's too far. So your guess is that she's probably nearby. The elves of the plains. So you guys are. So let's make this a little bigger here. There we go. So the elves of the plains live in this area right here, in this trapezoidal area is largely where the elves of the plains range. Seaquen is here, but you're talking about probably 25 miles to the border, downriver to the border of that region. At 20 miles away. You doubt that she flew all the way back there. She might have sent emissaries to tell her father, which was probably more reasonable, is that she's nearby, but she probably sent emissaries or messengers back to her father to tell her how it went, because the reality was the meeting blew up and she took off.
So the circle, is that Moangi then?
This up here?
Right? Yeah, is that Moangi?
Yeah, there are Moangi in there, yeah.
Okay. So square is elves, circle's Moangi.
Yep. Well, that blue circle is. But
Right.
there's Moangi all over the place. Let me get the big book of where the flip we are here.
Did you say, Mike, the square is this, like the red?
No, the square is the elves.
The square is where the
Oh, the
so these are
trapezoid.
plains elves,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So
okay. I was looking for a
It's
square.
not quite a square, but it's close. Okay.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
so they're not really looking to us to help the council make a decision. We're correct?
the elves aren't, certainly. The elves didn't even they were speaking to the council, not to you guys.
Right. I'm trying to figure out, just from a meta standpoint, is this something we have any
All right. Can you see can you see a new map?
No, I see the,
What'd you say, Mike? What was your last comment?
from a meta standpoint, I don't know how much we dig into the decisions here and how much control we've got over them. I don't know if we're just a passive observer and we just let it go and then, continue
mean,
our
they-
lives, or if this is,
They invited us for our advice, so I would think you would be able to
we
speak
would
up.
have at least a little bit of input.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, when you talked to Simeon, you weren't really sure what his deal was. But he was like, look, maybe help me on this. So hold on, let me show you this here. So this is a map of Greater Sargava, right? So where you are is right about, hold on.
Top of that circle.
Yeah, right at the bend. Okay, see that
Like,
bend right there?
Yeah.
Oh, it won't do it. Can you guys see my cursor?
Yeah.
Okay, so right here at the bend of that river is where Seaquen is. All right, so the elves are sort of out here in the plains, right? Eladir is the provisional capital of Sargava, right? Gate Pass is in here, sort of at the bottom of this river area, sort of in here. Lady Timor's lands, for example, are here, sort of in this area right here. Right. So, and it's a large area because she is a Chilaxian noblewoman, but the Sargavans basically, just wiped her out and drove their guys here. This is the fire forest here in the Kava lands,
Which is now a smoldering forest, thanks to us.
Thanks to you. Yeah, it's more of a not quite out forest, that kind of thing. But so there are Mwangi here, but this is really sort of the when you look at these jungle areas, the Screaming Jungle, the Jungle of 100 Trees, the Laughing Jungle, all these areas are all filled with Mwangi people. Including these plains. So Mizali, Kalabuto, Asibu, all of these are Mwangi cities. As part of that. So I think we can talk about that. So, all right. So Sargava, this is Sargava. In orange here, and later is the capital. They claim the Laughing Jungle. All these areas is what they would call pacified, right? Then you go here. There have been clashes between the Sargavans and the Mwangi historically at Kalabuto and on the rivers and that kind of stuff. And largely that's Mizali, right? A lot of goods and trade stuff are coming out of the Mizali hinterlands, which is this blue area, and the trading stations, which are these blue triangles that you could see sort of these are Mizali, these are Mwangi trading stations. They're worried about the Sargavans have always been worried about the Mizali because the Mizali are ruled by a boy prince, some sort of magic user named Walcania.
Right.
Walcania has been increasingly rallying his prosperous subjects against the Sargavans, and there have been clashes on the river and stuff like that. So there's the Mizali Mwangi down in the south, pretty far away. Then you have the Asibu Mwangi who have come forward. They have allied, they've range throughout the Bandu Hills. When you talk about Mwangi who you've met in Gate Pass, typically those are Osibu Mwangi. Because they range really far. They're more organized than the Mizali when it comes to opposing their Sargavans. They don't trade with the Sargavans. They also provide support to Kaavan guerrillas, which is to some of the hobbits in there, and the dwarves of the Bandu Hills. They are smaller, but good soldiers. So that's the Asibu.
Let me ask this. So if they say there's a Sargavan army heading our direction, it seems to me they've got to plow through all of the elves to get to us.
Well, right. So if let's go here. So Seaquen is here at the tip of this thing, right? So but Sargava has already done a lot of that work. So this is Sargava. Basically, if you look at it, they had set up their armies quite deftly, right? So they attacked Lady Timor's land and took her out here and sent her people on there. So they took those coastal lowlands for agricultural purposes, right? They captured the food. Then they basically co-opted Gate Pass. They took out Gate Pass.
Right.
So now the
They- they
Sargavans,
coming
I'm
up
sorry.
the plains or the river to get
Yeah.
to us. So I'm just,
That's
it's
blockades.
weird that the elves are taking over a city that's back behind them when the threat is on the other side of them.
well, they were already probably fighting. So the elves of the Dark Reach Plains, these are the elves we're talking about, are the Dark Reach Plains.
Right.
elves. And they're already they've already been harrying the Sargavan advance units. When we're talking about Sargavan army, there's probably a large army. There was a large encampment, a couple of thousand people at Gate Pass. So the Sargavans were, once they had taken over Gate Pass, good night. Once they had taken over Gate Pass, they were using it as a home base, a supply area. They were, stripping the city for whatever resources they could get, what they could need, but they also were using it so that they could go to the south. It could be that the Sargavans have made some sort of, and you don't know for sure, but it could be that the Sargavans have made some sort of non-aggression pact with the Mazzali Mwangi, and so there's still more supplies coming up from the south along that southern river. Because now that they've got Gate Pass, they control the northern river and the southern, or at least this part of the northern river and the southern trading posts all down the thing. There's nobody attacking them there if they're not fighting the Mazzali Mwangi, which they probably are not. I wouldn't be. But the elves of the Dark Reach elves are certainly harrying any advanced outriders that are coming in here. And they told you that. I mean, when you guys crossed about here
Yeah, we ran into
to get into the fire forest, and you ran into outriders.
Yeah,
So it wasn't like the Sargavans hadn't entered the Dark Reach Plains. They had, and the elves were fighting them. It could be that the elves are taking over Seaquen for a couple of reasons. One, it represents the biggest concentration of refugees, and to be perfectly Machiavellian about it, at some point the Sargavans are going to focus on it and go there.
Right.
Because it represents the one of the last safe zones for people being driven away from the Sargavan hinterlands.
Wasn't the Lyceum one of their big focal points too, I would think, because that's where
Point
the-
two, right? It's the largest magic school in the region, and the most powerful. So if the Scourge, if this Inquisitor Leska is running the armies now, she's like serving as field marshal. She is definitely hasn't forgotten that the Lyceum exists. And if the Scourge, whose goal has always been the elimination of arcane magic practitioners in favor of divine magic practitioners, absolutely, it's going to be a target.
okay.
And if they control Seaquen, they can essentially control this whole river from Blood Cove to the Bandu Hills. And essentially saw off the country from the north.
Well, saw from Seaquen on down on through, yeah.
Yeah. And if they can
Okay.
control that river valley, which means that they can bring in warships from the sea without having to worry about anything like that. That means that they're going to have, I mean, it's essentially a pincher movement, isn't it? I mean, they can bring in warships and troops from the sea. They can bring them across land into the valley, which means that they can do the job of pushing back the elves, their dwarven allies, the Osibu Mwangi supporters, and just push them back into the screaming jungle beyond the hills. And if they can solidify that and control those river systems, war's won.
Where's the what's the name of the third dude in line, the one that lost his mistress or whatever? What's his name? The dwarven guy.
Oh, the dwarven Xavius.
Xavius. Is he still floating around?
In the room?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you wanted to take a moment to try and talk to him, you certainly probably could.
I'm just curious to know, like, where is he planning on focusing his, guerrilla warfare tactics? Like, where does he plan in this battlefield to focus? Or does he have a plan?
Well, so if you guys take some opportunity to talk to him about that, he's saying, look, I don't have a specific plan yet. We haven't even formed the units. He goes, but we are preparing for that eventuality. We are essentially, from our point of view, those units are essentially formed. What we're looking, why, so he'll explain to you, it's like, why I brought this to the council is because I want the council's help. We only have probably amongst us, probably 250 guys that are capable and willing to join these guerrilla groups. That's not a lot. So he was hoping that these guys that his 250 could form the core of a much larger guerrilla army that could break out at the platoon level. We're talking like 20 to 25 guys per group that would be well supported, that would be capable, and that would be able to act in coordination, and do hit and run attacks, supply line attacks, kidnappings, targeted assassinations of leaders, that kind of thing. All of the guerrilla warfare stuff. But he's like, the reason I brought this to the council is because I'm looking for support from the council for these units
Like
and for
financial
other people to join in.
financial support, weapons and training kind of support.
Exactly right.
What is Seaquen? Is that like a city state, or it's not part of the Chilaxian colony, right?
It's not part of the Chilaxian colony, but historically it's been sort of a free city. It existed here before the Chilaxian colony, and it's sort of maintained its autonomy, much like Gate Pass did. So Gate Pass was sort of a free city on the edge of Sargavan territory. Seaqen's even farther afield, so it never sort of bent the knee to Sargava. They were just largely too far afield for them to bother with. That said, Sargavans came and went from Seaquen, with fair regularity. So, I mean, it's definitely a known, it's known to them. And Sargavans, emissaries from later traded with the Sequeni. It's not a very big place. Its real claim to fame is the Lyceum, in that it was the sort of biggest magic school around. So there was a lot of mages from this entire region. The Lyceum was the place to go if you were somebody who was skilled in the magical art or wanted to be skilled in the magical arts but needed instruction.
So does Xavius have any connections still to the Chilaxian royalty that were related to his lady Timor? It just seems to me weird that royalty from Chilaxia were the first that Sargava attacked, and that Chilaxia isn't doing anything about that. I mean,
so he'll
they...
explain. He's like, so first of all, she wasn't royalty. She was Cheliax has a large and extensive cadre of nobles, right? So you have the royal house, which lives in not in West Crown, but in the other place. His name escapes me. Anyway, the capital Cheliax. But Cheliax is also very much Cheliax's claim to fame is essentially they are a lawful evil society. And they're also sometimes referred to as devil haunted Cheliax, in that the royal house has made pacts with devils to ensure their lineage, to ensure power, to help them maintain control of their populace, that kind of thing. So Cheliax is a very cutthroat society. So when you're thinking about this lady Timor Daseni, who was here sort of as a Sargavan, so with the way Xavius would explain it is like, look, Chilaxians kill each other all the time. They're a bit drowish in that regard, in that they will knock out rivals, they will wipe out houses, they will erase noble bloodlines, not necessarily royal bloodlines, but noble bloodlines. It's very dog eat dog. Lady Timor's family has lived here for a long time. Now, that's not to say she was an exile from Cheliax, but she certainly wasn't part of the sort of ruling group, part of it. So it's not.
But he doesn't really have any ties to.
He doesn't. No, he's always been a retainer of hers, and he'd also tell you that personality-wise, even though she was of Chilaxian heritage, Chilaxians can be very cruel as a people, and she was not. She commanded a significant amount of loyalty among her retainers by her even-handedness, her willingness to listen to her retainers' advice, and her willingness to allow her serfs and freemen to increase their standards of living. She didn't tax them too hard. She, that kind of stuff. As feudal lords go, she was one of the better ones.
So naturally, she was taken out first.
Well, I think it was a matter of convenience for Eladar. I mean, she had a huge portion of that region was essentially her domain, and so in order to control those agricultural areas and potentially knock out a fairly comprehensive military force in one fell swoop that might end up challenging the Sargavans, for dominance in that coastal region. They were knocked out first. They didn't want a bunch of wild ass dwarves under the leadership of a renegade Chalaxian causing them problems on their own doorstep. But yeah, Xavius would say, look, my bringing this to the council was in order to get them on board, get them to recruit more people that were either already trained, fighters or could be trained up into fighters, so that we could expand the ranks of these guerrilla units that I've proposed, and then before we take the field. But essentially, he's like, look, we'll go through the fire forest, we'll go through the plains. These are stealth covert operations, but he's like, we don't really have, like most guerrilla warfare, we don't really have a plan. We're going to take attack. We're going to, we're going to look for targets of opportunity. We're going to try and get behind him.
He's going to have to ally with the elves, it seems like, at this point, because
well, he's not happy about the elves. He doesn't like elves, and he thinks he mistrusts them. So he'll tell you flat out, he's like, I don't trust them, and I don't think that. I think this is a way for the Dark Reach Plains elves to essentially take over Seaquen in perpetuity.
Sounds like that to me too. Vondrum will grumble with his arms crossed.
Yeah, this sounds like pernicious elvish bullshit.
I think I would rather have them take it over than the Sargavans, though.
I suppose that might be true.
Well, and he would say, should we trade one set of autocrats for another?
If the other option, if option C is death, then it's one or the other. So yeah,
death to us is better than slavery. Be it to the Sargavans. It doesn't matter who the slave masters are.
I hardly think elves are going to be slave masters. That's not in their makeup.
Well, I think he means not necessarily slaves in the traditional sense, but philosophical and economic and political slaves. That they would be beholden. They would be beholden to the elves.
Yeah. Like, we'll come help you, but you have to give up all control. That's just bullshit. That's not help. That's taking advantage of the situation.
Well, but on the other hand, and Xavius won't say this, but on the other hand, the elves have been bearing the brunt of the war so far. It's the elves who are harrying the Sargavans in the plains, and it's the elves who have been pipelining supplies
But what makes them feel like they can't trust anybody else? Nobody else.
They saw what happened. They saw what happened to Gate Pass, just like everybody else.
But that was the first guy's lame excuse.
It's not. It doesn't lose power for being shared. There's no question that Gate Pass fell because the Sargavans infiltrated and co-opted the people who would otherwise be in charge of defending Gate Pass against the Sargavans. Once they had that, the reality, you guys were there. They threw open the gates and let the Sargavan armies in, the Sargavan scourge in. You guys spent 2 or 3 days at least fighting essentially your own guerrilla war in the streets of Gate Pass
So
before you
had they
manage to
had
make
their
your
way, had
escape.
the elves had control of the city at that point, they would have just killed all the Gate Pass people that seemed to be going the wrong way. Wouldn't the same thing happen here if somebody was really watching and saw the gates getting thrown open to the bad guys? Would they not shoot the ones that seem to have turned code or been infiltrated?
Problem with Seaquen is there's no gate. It's a peninsula surrounded by water.
Is that a problem, or is that maybe actually?
Well, I mean, to the elves and to a lot of the people here, it is a problem. I mean, you've seen the population of Seaquen triple, almost quadruple, as refugees pour into the city. And I mean, they're trying to process them as best they can. I mean, Poe got recruited to help out in the healing tents as injured people, malnutrition, that kind of stuff. His medical skill was in high demand.
I don't know. I mean, if they're not willing to sign any treaty that says that they're going to hand the town back over, then to me, it just seems like an opportunity to take advantage. That's what Bondrum's position is.
Their argument, or at least the argument that Shalosha made, was we've been doing all the work and you guys have been sitting here arguing with each other. It's clear to us that you guys aren't capable of defending this city in the way that it's going to need to be defended. And so this is real. So we got to step in. The grown-ups are here.
There's no decision to be made then. This is basically what's happening.
Well, I mean, she basically said, this is going to happen and we're going to install this. Now she has left. So you're not sure how that is going to transpire. And certainly the council is largely against this idea for a variety of reasons, and for different reasons for different people. But they talked about it like it was a done deal. The warships are on the way, and one assumes when those warships arrive, the 17 new ships, and take their place up in the blockade, they were bringing with them this admiral who's supposed to be the provisional governor. He's probably in charge of those ships.
I mean, if the people that live here don't want to protect themselves from losing control of their city after the war is over, then that's them. I mean, it's not where I live, so, but that's what my grumbling is about. I wouldn't trust them to give power back when it's all over. It seems like a power grab. I don't like it. That's just Bondrum.
Were there other people on the council that you'd want to approach later? I'm assuming that you guys essentially that the council sort of dissolved and that you guys went into the red zone, where the dissentees are, and sought out a conversation with Xavius. Or are there other things that you want to ask Xavius about?
Well, I was kind of interested in kind of funding Xavius on the side, but I mean, I don't know if it seems worthwhile.
Maybe you can do that with your new boat.
Right, well, not our boat yet, but I was curious, like exactly how much he was looking for, what he thought he needed to be more effective.
They've essentially got enough funds and I mean, so his people, his 250 are armed, trained, and ready to go, but they need food, water, transportation, horses if they can get them. Well, for dwarves, I guess it would be ponies, or that big pig from the Hobbit movies. That would be good. Transportation, specialty equipment, that kind of stuff, which they were hoping that the council would sort of allow, sort of assign to them, but that didn't happen. So he's kind of like, I still want to go to Simeon and the rest of the war council and bring this up before we go out into the thing. But he goes, look, if I divide my 250 up into platoons, we're talking maybe 10 platoons of guys, dwarves and men out there in the field. And it's not enough. We need more. What he was hoping, basically what he was describing, hoping to do, is that he could convince the council to recruit 1,000 guys, and then his guys, being already trained, already well motivated, that kind of stuff, would serve like. Do you ever hear the old adage of like when in ancient Greece when when one of the city states of ancient Greece would get in trouble, they would send to Sparta for aid. And Sparta, who was this very militaristic society, Sparta would send a single Spartan warrior, and he would train the other Greeks to fight in the Spartan manner. And that was that was the Spartan way of bringing sort of bringing aid to their Greek allies. And so he's sort of like looking at that from the point of view of like, look, if I can get 1,000 guys, then I can take my guys who are trained and motivated, help to train and arm and teach those guys how to work as units, and then they would lead those guerrilla units out in the field. And if we had instead of 10, we had 50 guerrilla units out in the field, that would be a much different kind of thing. But all those guys would be training, support, food, that kind of stuff, communications, whatever, what could be done to help enhance that. That's what he's trying to foment.
Well, I would love to support him, but I don't have that kind of cash. And I mean, if nobody else is changing the view and the elves are going to end up ruining the day, then it's just a waste of breath right now. Yes.
Well, he'll tell you, he's like, oh, I understand that no single person, unless they were very wealthy, could foment this. He goes, but he appreciates where you're coming from. And certainly as a fellow dwarf, he understands your antipathy to the elves. But this is really something I need the council to do. They're not going to give me, I'm not going to be able to go into the refugee camps and start pulling people out and training them to be warriors. They have to want it. And I have to have the support of the council, both morally and financially, to make this work.
What's the standing army now in Seaquen? Do they have an army?
Almost nothing. Yeah. Well, so not really nothing. I mean, so to a certain extent, they have their standing army is largely the security forces. So it's really twofold, right? It's the security forces associated with the Lyceum itself, which is essentially campus police. I mean, they're skilled, but there's probably maybe 50 of them. Steckart seems to be a competent guy, but he doesn't have an army. And then you have Norbert's police force, which is probably another 50 guys. And since the hostilities began, they've been recruiting people. So probably they have 400 to 500 guys that can swing a sword, but they're definitely in the middle of sort of training stages. Even as you guys have gone to the Lyceum and you see magic students kind of all around, you also see military training going on inside the walls of the Lyceum. Remember, the Lyceum is essentially a Mott and Bailey castle on a small hill in the middle of Seaquen. So it's a defensible place, much more defensible than probably anywhere else in the peninsula. But they're training guys, but they certainly don't have anything that you could point at and call, oh, that's an army. Maybe 400 guys with weapons.
So the elves are pretty much right. I mean, these guys don't have a clue. It sounds like, because if there's a full-size Sargawan army coming this way, I mean, they're just going to roll over this city.
What's full size, out of curiosity? How big is the Sargawan army?
Well, there were a couple of thousand stationed at Gate Pass. So figure, I mean, nobody really knows. Intelligence hasn't suggested anything like that. I mean, nobody has that intelligence. There's no spies out there.
Anybody, we would have had it.
Yeah, I mean, 8 to 10,000 under arms is a reasonable assumption.
And how many are the elves offering?
Well, they didn't say. They're basically saying we will take over the defense of Seaquen. I mean, nobody really knows how many elves live in the plains and the surrounding grasslands. I mean, probably a fair amount, but not every elf is an elvish warrior or an elvish sailor. So they suffer from the same sort of problems that any other large group of people is going to face. I mean, there's a percentage of all those people that are going to be able to effectively become an organized military force of whatever skill level. Your history with the Elvish have been the planes, the Outriders and the planes themselves. Horsemen out there, sort of analogous to the Riders of Rohan, right? Small to medium-sized groups of out there of Lancers and mounted bowmen, sort of doing cavalry tactics out in the plains, where the cavalry tactics work best.
Well, I
I mean,
guess I'm just waiting and seeing, just wait and see for me. I don't know. I'll look at all my party members and ask if they want to get more involved in making these decisions for these people.
Well, we still have a meeting to make with the head of the Lyceum, right? Didn't he want to meet with us separately?
He did at the end of last time, and basically he was like, "Look, he basically what he said was, look, I would love it if you guys were my eyes and ears, and if you found out information that would be useful to me." Basically he came off as a very sort of genuine guy. He's obviously an academic, right? He is a professor of magic and the head administrator of the largest magic school in the region, with all that connotes, right? He's not a military guy. He's a magus, and he's like, look, you guys seem like you know what you're doing. Katarina tells me that you guys definitely know what you're doing and you can be trusted. And that goes a long way with me. Katarina and I have worked together a lot. And if she says that she trusts you guys and respects your skills, that means that carries a lot of weight with me. So he basically asked you guys, look, if you hear anything that can be useful to me, I'd appreciate if you do. He's, you let me know, and that'll help me fix this, problem, that we have. In the meantime, I'm going to try and fix the teleport problem that we have, so that we can start using magic to. Well, and he's like, the first item on my agenda is to set up a teleport station in Gate Pass. He's like, normally I would have worked with Cabal on this and it would have been easy to do. We had one before, until the problem with teleportation materialized, which obviously from the documents that you've brought is something that the Sargavans or their Chilaxian masters put into place. It was probably done basically he'll say the teleportation issues that cause people to burst into flames when they try to teleport. He's like, that was put into place by Sargavan mages, possibly members of the Scourge, as a preamble to attacking these cities. If you keep people from escaping, if you can keep people from leaving, if you can keep supplies from being teleported in, it makes the job of pacifying those areas that much easier. He says, the documentation that you brought here, I think will help us fix that. And the first thing we're going to do is set up a teleportation station between here and Gate Pass, so that we can start getting, the first thing we need to do is start getting information. What's going on there? What are the Sargavans doing in Gate Pass? How bad is it? What can we learn? And then, we can start, we can start infiltrating spies, saboteurs, that kind of stuff into and behind enemy lines, essentially, at Gate Pass, and start helping the gate. We know that there's still a significant resistance at Gate Pass, to the Sargavan overlords. If we can help them, that helps us. But yeah, basically he's like, the short version is he says he wants you to be his eyes and ears in the city, because he can't be. And if there's something that's going on, to let him know. If there's something important that he needs to know.
Well, there's 8,000 Sargavans on their way here, so you probably need to figure out a way to defend against that.
Well, he's like, I absolutely agree with you. The problem is, I don't know how to do that. He goes, I'm a teacher, not a general. So if there's advice that you can give me, or people that you find that can be trusted, that you can bring to me to help me with that job, I much appreciate it.
I've got some advice. Become a general.
Well, it's not something that automatically happens, right?
You have the elves. You just need to figure out a way to protect your city from the aftermath of embracing their help.
Exactly.
Did the elven?
It's good advice.
Did the elven princess say when the 17 warships were expected to arrive?
48 hours.
40,
48
yeah,
hours?
48 to 72 hours.
Okay, so just for our group, there is the possibility that we have 48 to 72 hours to decide if we're going to stay in Seaquen or get out. Because once the blockade's in effect, once the elven warships get here, we might not be able to leave. While they're in the process of, how do they put it, gauging the purity of the alliance or whatever they bullshit they said.
I'm not worried about our ability to leave.
Well,
If we really want out, we'll get out.
well, yeah, I get that, but if they're gonna have a full defensive
Right.
blockade around the
Right.
water, and the water is the only way to leave. So it's a little easier for them to keep people from leaving this city than it would be for one that's completely landlocked. Because we'd have to walk a long way in the middle of nowhere to not have to take a waterway to get anywhere useful.
Right.
So I think we need to decide if we are going to allow ourselves to be encapsulated in this blockade before it actually happens.
Maybe we get the boat and then stash it outside the zone that they're gonna blockade.
Well, if we even want the boat though, it's not really seeming like having a boat is gonna be advantageous right now.
The boat could be a trading chip for someone trying to get out of here later, or a way to protect someone that we need to get out of there, or a way for us to get out of there. Potentially, possibly, just a thought.
See, having a boat is a way to get out of here now. But once there are 17 warships doing a complete blockade of the peninsula, it's not going to be a way to get out anymore.
Well, what if we put the boat like over here, tuck it in the woods somewhere?
It's a 26-foot sailboat. I don't know how easy it's going to be to tuck into the woods.
I don't know how well you can tuck it either, but it seems like you could stash it potentially. I mean, are we expecting bad guys coming from this direction?
Because it's 26 feet. It's going to stay out in the water.
Well, also,
Stashing. it.
Chuck, you ought to point out who you're acquiring it from.
Who are we acquiring it from if we were to acquire it?
The elves.
The elves. And we'd be acquiring the pearls and the mithril ingots from an elven captain too. So
No, it's just gonna look like an elvish boat though.
it is an elvish boat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, which I'm just kind
So-
of considering what that would do for us or against us.
Yeah, so the person who is interested in the magic items that we're selling, that is paying in pearls and either pearls, mithril, or exchange of a boat, is some person named Chathinglass, captain of the Kindreth, an elvish ship that's currently in the interdiction force. So it's not necessarily a warship, but it's one of the ones that's in the interdiction force now, which up till now, we've been told are actually helping get refugees in and supplies in and out,
Right.
and just keeping out bad guys. But the 17 warships they have on the way sound like they're more for a complete lockdown. And if we decide to wait for them to get in and get set up, that might affect our ability to go wherever the hell we want to go if we decide out of here is the right answer.
I mean, there's still gonna be. I don't think they're gonna barricade against any kind of motion. I think they're just trying to control the motion that happens.
Yeah.
There's still gonna be transportation going in other places, if nothing else, just for supplies and.
Right.
Movement of troops. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons to have.
I mean, right now, just Arendar's take on this, and part of it's a racial thing, just because he is half elf. The elves have been helping this town stay afloat to this point. So it's not like this is a hostile takeover. It's still a takeover, but it's not.
It's a friendly takeover.
It's a friendly takeover.
Yeah, these people,
It's
these
a taking
people should be,
advantage type of takeover.
these
though. That's what-
people should be happy and proud that
Should
they've
be
been
happy, yeah.
subjugated
Right.
by the elves.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying,
Just like I'm sure our mother's pointy ear pride was at an all-time high while she was being raped.
yeah. So,
We apparently have different ideas about elves, buddy.
oh, no,
I'm-
no.
I'm
No,
half
about
elf.
about that particular elf, we've got the exact same ideas. So I don't agree with how the elves are doing it. Arendar, being a very practical person, is like, okay, can't argue with the fact that these guys are they've got the resources to help. They're the reasons this town is doing as well as it is doing now. And yeah, from what I've seen so far, these guys don't have it together. Like I said, not the right way to do it, but you can't really, I don't think you're gonna be able to argue with the results of what they're gonna accomplish.
Isn't there
I
a
can
way
think
to negotiate some end though? Like we recognize
Yes.
the fact that it's your
That's actually-
resources and your lives that you're bringing to the table, but
Yeah, that's exactly why I wanted to talk to the daughter is. Like I said, Arendar's taking a more practical approach to this. He would almost be okay with this if there was an ending. It's not just we're taking this over forever, deal with it. If it was, hey, we're taking this over just during this war, and once we've won, then it's yours again. We'll go back to the plains and you guys can do whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because that happens all the time.
right. Well,
People take over power, resources, and authority and just give it back all
they
the
do, they
time.
give it back.
to be,
It's such
to be
higher-
fair,
Just-
Arendar's got a very limited experience with this, and he's a very practical, simple decision kind of person. So
And the idea about being able to negotiate an end or what have you, that's all great, but there was no opening for negotiation to begin with. It wasn't a negotiation. It was
No.
it was an ultimatum.
no, and yeah,
So that's where it starts.
And
It's
that's the
not,
part
it's
that-
not
yeah.
going to get better.
The real question we need to answer is what's our position in all of this? I mean, what are we doing here? It doesn't seem like we've really got anything to do right now, other than, are we gonna try to help get Gate Pass free again? Is that the ultimate?
we have to go to a play. That's what we have to do.
Or just wander around keeping our eyes open. That's what we've been asked to do.
Well, I mean, there are options, right? I mean, one of the things that Simeon has proposed, well, sort of proposed, is, I mean, sort of tacitly, he's basically said, look, I'm, with the information that you've brought here, I'm setting up a teleportation station that we're going to try and open up a Gate Pass. If he gets that complete and you guys want to go back to Gate Pass, join the resistance there and fight the Sargavans in your home city, that's a possibility. I think what Simeon is saying is, you guys come here and you're in a unique position. You're not from here. You're not part of any entrenched constituency. You're sort of free agents and skilled free agents. The vibe you got from Simeon was that you're in large part like his friend Katerina, who does not seem to be part of any particular faction or anything like that, but is sort of works as a sort of free agent, either on behalf of Simeon personally or on behalf of the Lyceum, as a information gatherer, supply procurer, an agent of some sort. And I think what Simeon might be trying to do is sort of recruit you into his confidence so that you can act as similar agents on his behalf. Because you can recognize the political problems that he faces, right? As head of the council and administrator and head professor of the Lyceum, he holds a strange amalgam of power in this town, but it's not power that he can arbitrarily utilize, right? And he'll be the first to admitted it to you, that he's like, look, I'm not a military man. I'm not a politician. I'm a teacher. He goes, I just largely don't know how to do these things. And he didn't come right out and say to me, he's like, look, if I have friends who understand the nature of politics, who understand the nature of military things, who can advise me and inform me of things that I wouldn't otherwise know about, that helps me make better decisions.
And actually knowing our party's makeup, I think we would fit that need
T.
perfectly.
Yeah.
We're not soldiers. We're not, leaders of armies, but we're definitely very good at covert stuff or guerrilla stuff or
killing people
native stuff or
magic. Titus is great, is a magician, an extra player magician.
This is like 6 against 100, whereas we're talking now about 1,000 against 8,000. I mean, it's just a whole different.
Well, it's not necessarily that you're against anybody. I mean, Xavius welcomed you into his hall.
And council on how 1,000 people defend against 8,000 as opposed to our 8 against 100. It's just it's a totally different. It's not really anything we have huge experience with either, I don't think. I mean, generalities, but this is a big arena. Interesting.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he expects you to be a general for him. He's got Steckert, he's got the other guy whose name escapes me, Broussard or whatever his name is. He's got some security people who understand military shit. So it's unlikely that he wants you to fulfill that particular piece. I think he wants you to help him in the same way that you guys believe Katarina has helped him, in that she provides him information. She is a free agent. She is not hamstrung by the political factionalism that already exists, nor is she bound by being part of this refugee group or that refugee group. Now, you guys have allegiances to Gate Pass, but it's pretty clear to you that Simeon was very much saddened by the fact that Gabal had died. You got the impression that he and Gabal were friends and colleagues, and long-term so, and that he does have an affinity for Gate Pass, and the fact that you guys are from Gate Pass is a feature, not a bug. And you're making a name for yourself in town, right? Ono nearly defeated one of the guys from the one of the monks from that other the Echoes guys. You know, as far as Katarina pointed, or somebody pointed out, you came the closest to beating. You're the only person who's come even close to defeating him in the arena, and he's fought other monks of different places. So that's, you know, that's something. It's gonna be a rematch. I imagine Katarina would want that, but she lost like 100 gold pieces on you. You know, Xavius welcomed you into the red zone. I mean, I think he sort of immediately understood that you guys represent a certain, or he immediately assumed that you guys represent a certain philosophical train of thought that he shares, which is you don't like Sargava, you've been wronged by them, and you want revenge. I think he feels that you guys are kindred spirits in that regard, knowing that, as he does, that you guys are from Gate Pass.
So it kind of sounds like at this point, we need to just head back into the city and be eyes and ears for the moment. Is that what you're getting at? Because we can get information if we come across anything to Simeon. I mean, if we are sort of in agreement with Xavius, we don't really have the means to help him unless we decide to go and be part of one of the insurgent groups.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, is not outside of the realm of possibility. But as far as a clear direction of what do we go do now, it seems like we just need to go back in and
How
go back
close
to
is
this.
it to the Lyceum, the city, the downtown area? I've lost track of where the city is. Is it by
It's the other side of the bay.
the other side of the bay?
Yeah, can you pull up the map that's got?
Yep, I'm doing it.
I just want to see where it is relative to the Lyceum. To me, the Lyceum, to Vandren, the Lyceum is a big importance because magic is taking a huge hit.
Yeah.
So the Lyceum is this yellow circle right here. So it's a Mott and Bailey style. So it's just like, so on this, it's obviously this is a city on a peninsula, but there is a hill there, and originally it was designed as a Mott and Bailey style castle in which you have a tower in the middle. In this case, you have multiple towers, an open area, and then you surround it by a wall on the edge of the top of the hill, and then it becomes defensible from a thing, because any attackers have to run up the hill, then they hit the wall, and they have to get through that, and it makes it easier for the defenders. Now, it hasn't been used as a military stronghold for centuries, maybe, but it still has that capacity. There is still a wall around the Lyceum, and it's at the top of a hill. But yeah, that's where it exists right here. Now, you guys are at this other yellow circle. That's where you guys are staying at the Supreme Squid, which is on the other side of the harbor. And the theater boat is like right here in the center of the harbor. And then you have,
Isn't that convenient?
Well, and then you have, so these buildings up in the northern area are the village of Seaquen proper. These are places that have been here. It's largely a river town, so merchants, traders, fishermen, that kind of stuff. The refugee camps are here. What you see, sort of surrounded by these different colored parallelograms, and they represent different types of refugee camps. Xavius's refugees from the Decini are here. They refer to themselves as the Decini now, but they live up here. And then you have in the green area, you have, oh, hold please. You have the people who refer to themselves as the Cinderies, which are a loose confederation of small, very contentious groups. This is where Laura Beck lives, is in the green area. And when she came in front of the council, she was basically trying to say, look, we need resources here so I can keep these people from being at each other's throats. They already have fundamental religious differences, philosophical differences, racial differences. There's fights. And she's like, poverty, lack of resources, lack of clean water, lack of medicine is all exacerbating those things. If we can solve those problems, we can solve the problems of internecine contentiousness. In the blue area is something called the Ostelines, and that's about 200 humans and half-elves who are mostly sailors and merchants who have made their way here from other areas on the river that may or may not have been threatened by Sargava. There's a little bit of people are sort of a little bit peeved at these guys because it's obvious that they have come here to take advantage of economic conditions, sell their services at a high price, buy and sell things from the other incoming refugees at vicious discounts and sell them for profit. So they're a bit doing that. That said, they have really been helpful to the city in that it's the sailors that have come here from other places that are helping out with processing supplies. These are the guys that are working at the harbors and helping to manage all that incoming supplies and resources that are coming in via the elves. So it's kind of like, well, they're kind of greedy and they came here to make money and they came here to sort of take advantage to a certain extent of people who are refugees. But on the other hand, they're actually providing a valuable service that is ultimately helping the people of Seaquen, the refugees of Seaquen. And then in the purple area, you have, sort of a random gang of mostly Sargavan and Mwangi refugees, some of them from Gate Pass. This is what you would look at from the point of view of a traditional style refugee camp. It's disorganized. There are gangs, there is some violence, there is poverty. This is the area that Arendar and Wraith went into to sort of find out what information they could about what's been going on at Gate Pass, and where they met Argel, the ale seller, and they were able to provide him with some money to help spread around and help, I think, as Wraith put it, help feed some of the children in this area with this money, that kind of thing. And then so this is the North Harbor over here. And then down here is the South Harbor, which is largely before the Sargavan crisis was largely, I don't want to say unused, but certainly not nearly as big a deal as the Northern Harbor. The Northern Harbor, you can see it has this very protected cove, from any storms or anything. So, that it was made much more use of. The Southern Harbor is sort of like an overflow area. There's elements here, but it's the Northern Harbor's preferred. But now they're making as Sidoneth, the Hydromancer mentioned during the War Council. He's like, look, and we're having to use the Southern Harbor more and more because we're getting so much activity in the Northern Harbor. There's so many boats and that kind of stuff.
What's the story with the ruins again, Les? I don't remember
These ruins over here on the very promontory of the peninsula are an area where. So these ruins predate most of the city of Seaquen. This was a town that existed before Seaquen sort of became a thing. And largely it was, you can see this was a walled area, and the remnants of those walls still exist. You can sort of see it in this sort of half circle that exists around the promontory here. It's a ruined area. There's a lot of people in Seaquen are a bit superstitious about it, although most people will say, look, it's just ruined. It's in a weird place. It's kind of swampy, and it's just not much there. So people just don't go there. But it's an old village that sort of disappeared or sort of went away before proper Seaquen really got started. So it predates Seaquen, the city, and people just really don't go there. You'll see some people go over there looking, sometimes you'll see gangs of kids will go in there looking for hidden treasures. There's always those rumors, there's like, oh, the great treasures of this area, that kind of thing. People go in there, and then they come back and, there's a little bit of superstition involved, right? They say it's haunted, that kind of stuff. They heard scary noises and things like that. Nobody really believes that that's a haunted area. There's just nothing there that anybody wants. Now, there have been, in certain cases, people who have used and gone over there and stolen some of the stones and bricks that were used to build the old buildings in the wall, and they've taken them away and used them to build other structures. And that's fairly common that happens. But it's mostly superstition when people talk about that area over there. They don't even have a name for it. It's just that area over there that we don't go to. Sort of like my garage. So you did find out some information from Xavius, and you were welcomed by him. It's possible that if you could go to other people and find out more information of them that might be valuable to Simeon. You could talk to Katerina and maybe figure out what she knows and why it was, because you guys didn't really get an impression that she was all too impressed with you guys, and suddenly she's talking you up to the head of the Lyceum, and he's approaching you with sort of a strange offer. It seems an odd kind of thing. You did rescue her from the hags, which was a good thing.
And we didn't strangle her on the way back.
And you didn't strangle her on the way back. I guess that's probably the barriers to entry to being in her good graces.
I would be curious to know what her plans are for protection of the city, that, if they've really thought out a good plan.
Do you want to seek her out?
Not particularly.
Well, you do have some time to before. So the play that you guys have tickets for, and that you find out later that this Giorgio guy has been spreading these tickets around. Frankly, when he talks about being guests of honor and things like that, apparently he spread tickets around to most of the War Council. You're not sure if all of them are going to be there. Simeon mentioned that he would probably be going to check it out.
Makes me a little nervous to think that they're putting everybody in the War Council in one room. I don't
Yeah,
know.
sounds like a trap, definitely.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we're not all planning on going, right?
It's a play. How bad could it be?
Well, it could be very bad.
Was that an Abraham Lincoln quote? I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
Did they give us like 2 tickets? Is that what they gave us?
Did I miss that? Come on,
A special box looking over the stage.
How bad could it be? Bang.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
I'm pretty sure they gave passes, tickets, whatever to all of us.
Yeah, there was a ticket for everybody.
But no, Wraith had no intention of going.
Where's the theater at? In the boat in the middle of the harbor? Is that the entertainment boat in the middle of the harbor there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to do it.
How do they get people out there? Rowboats, I guess.
Yeah, they have little John boats that they take, back and forth from the things. It's sort of an event. It's actually, so this theater is actually quite famous in Seaquen. It's not if you ask around, you'll learn that it's not really a viable boat. It's pretty much anchored to the middle of the harbor, and and to a certain extent, there's a little bit of boy, they built their theater right in the middle of our fucking harbor, which makes it difficult to use makes it more difficult to use the harbor. But everybody it's one of the primary sources of entertainment, especially for the more upper crust kind of people. There's usually cocktail parties on deck and that kind of stuff. It's a bit, fairly fancy. And the plays are not bad. And the Guildmistress Ellicat's cocktail parties on the boat are the stuff of legend. That sometimes they'll bring in illusionists from the Lyceum to do a series of illusions for people, which is what Giorgio mentioned. He said, when he mentioned that they don't use CGI in this play, that it's, no illusions will be used to do this play. It's all real to do this new play that they're putting on.
So is this kind of like the quote unquote riverboat casino in St. Charles?
There's no casino. It's definitely just a theater.
No, I'm talking about it's technically a boat in that it's near water. It can't actually go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely anchored to the ground.
Yeah, they
dug
a trench around it so that it would pass the requirements for a riverboat, so they could put a casino there.
Yeah. It's funny on a total side note. When they first passed that law here in Missouri, where the riverboats had to be on water that was connected to the river. They were just building the casino, the big casino tower with the Four Seasons in it, which is, I can't remember the name of it. Oh, Lumiere Place.
Yeah,
And the way they did that was they essentially, when they built the because I was doing PR at the time, and I was doing
There's
PR
a
for them.
moat, right? Isn't there like a moat?
Well, it's not a moat. It's basically they have a connection to the river that water flows into. And essentially what they did is below the foundation of the hotel, they have a sort of sub foundation with and the way I heard told, and I don't know if this is even true, but basically it holds about 3 inches of water. And it's connected to the river. So, and they filled this, and then they built a top over that's technically free floating, that formed the base of the whatever, the bottom of a building. And then they built on top of that. And because of the weight of the building compresses that to the extent that essentially technically it floats on a cushion of water, but that water is compressed by the building, and so it doesn't go anywhere. It just sits there. And they've subsequently sort of terminated the connection to the river. So while it still has water under it, it's not technically part of the river anymore, because it doesn't have to be. But that's how they built it. I'm like, of all the things, just build a boat and put it on the river, you dunces. But they didn't want to do that. I can't imagine the engineering that had to go into that. Well beyond my meager mathematical capabilities.
Well, Vandram is going to see if any of his compatriots want to hang out at a near bar by the little rowboat that's taking people out there and pass on the play.
You're gonna pass on the play? You're not gonna attend the play?
No, that sounds like all Titus. Titus is coming back.
I'm down with hanging with Vondi.
Okay.
Why do I have to go?
Bard,
You're the artistic one. This is your wheelhouse.
I'm a sorcerer. I'm an ASMR. I'm not a bard.
Well, you have bard-like tendencies.
Oh, geez. So you're saying I'm gay?
That's exactly
Not all
what
bards are
she's
gay.
saying. That's precisely what she's saying. Get your gay ass to the play.
Well,
Oh, we'll go with you, Titus.
Oh, that's apparently getting tweeted.
you have
Fantastic.
bard-like tendencies. Does that mean you think I'm gay?
No.
Yes, we think you're gay.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right. So Arendar's going too, because he already committed after Wraith tricked him, so.
All right, so you've got about a 24-hour period if you want to do anything, or we can just jump to splitting the party. I mean, going to the play.
Debbie.
Poe's gonna go do the medical stuff less for
Okay, you're gonna go help those guys out. All right, perfect.
and be a listener and see if we can learn anything.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take a nonchalant, I guess, walk around whatever area of city I can reasonably do that and be back in time to just see what's going on and gather intel.
Well, so both of you so both of you go out in the city and you're sort of talking. I'm assuming Wraith goes to, hits a couple of half-ass bars and dive clubs and stuff like that. But basically, both of you realize that what happened in the War Council is basically out there now. People are talking about it. They're talking about the elves and the elvish takeover. And you're getting, there's any place, any group of people you talk to, if there's 5 people in that group, you're going to get 8 opinions about the elvish takeover. Some people think, yeah, this is finally we're getting some help from the elves that we need, and the other people are like, I'm never giving up my sovereignty. I'll be a Seaquen till Seaquen forever. I'm never giving it up. That kind of stuff. So and every bit of things between. But the news is out that there's this flotilla, this elvish flotilla is on the way here, and it's essentially going to block up the thing. You've also heard some rumors that people are in advance of this are people that some people are leaving Seaquen. You're not sure what that means. I mean, if you talk to certain people who knew, there's a couple of instances, it's not very many people, but a couple of instances of people leaving. If you talk to the people who knew them, they're like, yeah, they seem normal. They're, refugees. They live, in the, hovel next door. They came from various places. There doesn't seem to be any particular common denominator about these people who have either left or disappeared, other than they've now left and disappeared. That seems to be the delimiter. You're not sure what to make of that.
Does there seem to be a common direction these people are going?
Nobody's seen them leave. It's just like they're there one day, and then a couple hours later, you go over to their house and it's empty. Nobody's really had any instances where they've seen people physically, getting in a wagon and leaving. At least the people you've talked to.
Oh, probably the spies. Some of them anyway.
Could be. In some cases, it's families.
There's always going to be some percentage that are going to bug out.
Just because they're families doesn't mean they weren't spies.
True. All right. So that's Wraith. Wraith is going out in the town. Poe is helping at the medicine tents. Does anybody else have somewhere that they want to go, or somebody specific they want to talk to? Like Vondrum wanted to talk to Xavius.
I wouldn't mind inviting Xavius to come have a beer with us with Wraith and I and Ono.
I think he would probably take you up on that, is duties permitting, he would say.
And I would, maybe encourage him to bring one of his entourage to hang around in case, things got a little dicey tonight, since we have all the members of the War Council now shuttled out to a boat in the middle of the harbor.
Well, Xavius will tell you, and hold on. I got to check something real quick. So Xavius would tell you that he was planning on going to this thing, but he wasn't planning on bringing anybody else. He's not sure he could get a ticket for his lieutenant. But he was planning on going, and the news that you guys are attending as well. He's like, well, I've heard that the Lady Ellicott's intermission cocktail party are excellent, and that she does a splendid job. I got to be perfectly blunt. I don't get a great deal of entertainment in the refugee camps. I was just quite looking forward to attending this play. I haven't read the text. I'm not sure who the author is, but I've heard good things. The reviews have been good.
By all means, brother, attend. Leave your lieutenant with us. I'll buy him beers.
Okay.
Well, we have extra tickets, so
Yeah.
if he actually wants to take someone, we can provide an extra, because I'm not going and it looks like Vondi's not going, so that's 2 extra tickets.
And then Ono too, who wants to hang out with.
Yeah, Ono's not going, so that's 3 extra tickets if he has somebody that he wants to bring, or
Okay.
multiple somebodies.
He'll take you up on that. The tickets for this particular showing are fairly limited, and it's because it's sort of it's being catered to, you know, sort of the hoi polloi of the city, you know, are coming there. So you know, the tickets are rather hard to come by, and so yeah, he would very much appreciate it if he would, you know, if on your advice, Vondrum, that you think that it would be wise for me to bring an associate, and you're willing to provide me a ticket, by all means, I will do so.
But I'm going to ask him too, will he leave a few more of his associates floating around the area at our disposal too?
He sort of gives you a sort of a smile. He's like, I can see your dwarvish blood is strong. It was already my intention to have associates on the docks, watching and being prepared for any sort of malfeasance. As you might not be aware, my associates range widely through the city. I tend to want to keep an eye on not only the daily activities of what goes on in this city, but also the activities of those who currently have control over the welfare and well-being of the people who look to me for leadership. And he sort of gives you a smile under his big bushy beard.
Definitely like him. Let's have a beer while we wait.
Okay. So yeah, so I mean, he'll accompany you, and he'll bring one of his guys, certainly. This is what I don't know if I showed you guys, but that's what Xavius looks like. He's an older dwarf, but still very I mean, you don't get any indication that he's a dotard by any stretch of the imagination. He still you know, has a small but very serviceable war hammer at his belt, which he carries with him everywhere, and you can see the glint of a breastplate under his furs and clothing. So he's definitely you know, knows how to swing it. So who's not going to the party?
I'm not.
All right, Ono's not going.
I'm
All
not.
right, Wraith is not going.
Founder.
Vondrum's not. Well, I thought you were going to accompany Xavius to the thing.
No, I.
So you're abandoning him at the.
I wanted Xavius to come have a drink with me, but he exhibited an interest in going, so I'm just going to let him go. And
Oh, definitely, he's interested in going to see the play.
yeah, that's cool.
All right. So those three are.
Is Katarina going?
Katarina's definitely going, at least as far as you know.
So can I ride in the same boat as her so I can push her out?
Hey, are you trying to foment a sort of a pre-play wet t-shirt contest, or?
Oh my gosh.
Hold on just 1 second. I'll be right back.
Does any of us have the ability to do secret messages
Yes, I do.
from what?
I have messaging.
He's got message, so he can cast that on several people, probably up to 5 of us. It doesn't have a really long range.
That's what I was wondering. Is that within range of the harbor to the boat in the middle? It seemed like that's doable.
Let's just say it does.
You
I
good with that,
like
Andrew?
that spirit.
Hmm?
It's always easier to ask forgiveness than ask permission.
150-foot range per message.
It's gonna be my luck. Katarina's gonna be like a main player through like this entire adventure path.
Do you not like Katarina? Did you piss her off? Did I miss that?
No, just the bucket of sass.
Oh. We can't see a map to see if that's 150 feet to the center, can we?
No,
So why do
think
you want
that-
to dump Katarina in the lake?
bucket o' sass. If she was there, he'd actually tell her that. Oh, you're going out too? You want to ride in my boat? You can sit right next to me because that would be easier for me to push you out.
Fix it.
Get the boat.
All right. So yeah, you're not sure she's going. But based on some of the things that Simeon mentioned, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for her to show up to this thing. Seems like he would make that arrangement. All right.
If she shows up, he's not going to miss the opportunity to push her buttons. So,
Is that a euphemism?
no, really, he just wants.
She's
to...
not even a redhead. Stop it. All right. So the evening. So anybody want to do anything else before?
Before the show.
Well, I mean, there's something going to happen to you guys before the show. We'll get to that in a minute. But
What's the dimension from the harbor from one shore to the other?
it's about. Hold on. Let's have a
Not
look
the
at
mouth
that.
to the back, but from side to side. From
So this area right here is probably 1,000 feet.
you're going from here to here.
Yeah, something like that.
It's only 20 feet. See,
It's only 20 feet. You could leap across it. It's the tiniest theater known to man. No, about 1,000 feet. The opening is far less so. This is probably 100 feet wide, or maybe 150 feet wide. But the protected area, the sound is probably 1,000 feet wide. Also very deep. The anchors that hold the theater at bay, it makes it almost perfect for a boat basin, because there's very little movement of the water. Even if the river itself is turbulent, it doesn't seem to get back here. So there's it's a very safe harbor, almost fjord-like.
okay. Titus has cast a message on all of us, so we can all talk back and forth
Okay. All right. So how long does that last? Or
forever.
do you just keep that going forever?
That's right.
I have no idea how long it lasts.
Okay, I don't either. Is this? I'm assuming you're gonna do that before the play.
It's 50 minutes.
Okay, 50 minutes. Okay. All right. So the evening before the play. So you guys are going out into the city, doing various things. Wraith is.
Are there Fletchers in the city?
Sure, absolutely.
Like actually, not Fletchers. People that can make bows.
Bowyers, yes.
I want a composite one, but made for a pretty high strength.
Okay.
I don't know if they'd have that one, like by default, or if they'd have to specially make that.
Well, so talking to the guy, they have a selection of bows, some of them with very strong pulls, which, sort of a man of your stature, a man of your martial prowess could certainly use any of these bows effectively. They're well sighted. They're quality craftsmanship made with the finest swamp woods and sinews that are available to us here in the refugee camps of Seaquen. However, I couldn't help but notice that you particularly are a man of sophistication, a man of taste, and obviously a man of skill, which would mean that it seems completely out of character that you would want to select a bow off the rack. For that, because of that, I would like to offer you, a completely custom bow made to your specifications, made with the finest woods and materials available, to suit a customer and an archer of your status.
A lot of smoke.
What do you say? I could tell
So
that.
I just put it in the chat as he started talking.
Okay.
Just asking about.
But perhaps I was wrong. We do have a fine selection of off the rack bows. I just, obviously you're a man of a distinct, a certain martial ability. I wanted to make sure that you understand everything that was available for you. But I'm happy to sell you any of the bows that you see here, and describe the.
Can I buy it for the same price that I could out of the book?
Well, so weapons here are going for about 125 to 140% a book. So it's a little bit more expensive because they're hotly contested for.
Okay. All right. I'll hold off right now.
All right.
Okay. Nothing until the show then.
All right. Poe's working at the thing. Titus, you and Ono have been surprisingly quiet today. I'm just
Yeah.
worried that maybe that you aren't getting what you want. What is it that you guys do in the city while I think Ono's probably still nursing his bruises from the terrible beating he was given by the other monks.
You know, I right now I'm still in information gathering mode. I feel like I gotta get a grip on the expanse of all this stuff that's happening.
Understood. Titus, what about you? A learned man, a man of passions, a man of sophistication,
I'm just trying to
practically a bard.
God, yeah, practically a bard. I'm trying to fight off the soporific tendencies of politics and just trying to figure out where I can apply my diplomacy, my song, my dance, and general charisma. I'm
Well-
just kind of going with the flow. I'm not as conniving and political as everyone else. I just want to wait for my moment to shine.
Well, a man of your charisma and a man of your sweet talking capabilities would have a fair amount of luck amongst the ladies of Seaquen, who've probably never met an ASMR in their lives and are both intrigued and frankly willing to be seduced. Certainly, you're also a man of wealth. You put those three together: a smooth talker, a good-looking guy with a fair amount of money. Frankly, the female refugee populations, and probably a good portion of the natives of Seaquen might find you just completely irresistible.
Well, they would not know that I have money. I don't flaunt that.
Your fine clothes, your
Fine clothes.
your taste in wine, your all
I'm
of the things that
splattered in fish guts from all this river travel. Hang out with these mongrels. Wait, did I get that self-cleaning outfit? Does that make me look a vet?
Clean's a cantrip, Andrew, so either you or me can clean it.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, thaumaturgy will perk that right up.
I'm prepping for the play. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm flossing.
Making sure you get the dirt out from under your fingernails, that kind of thing.
Pretty much because I have a feeling that they will probably call audience members onto the stage and
Suspect it's one of those.
yeah.
Rodrin is so happy he's not going.
All right. So the evening before the play, which would be the evening after the evening of the day after the War Council meeting in which the elves came. So 24 hours later, you guys have been wandering about in the city. Poe working on helping the sick and wounded. The rest of you going about errands of your own. You guys all sort of end up returning to the Supreme Squid just about dinner time as you wend your way back from your individual errands. And as you step into the building, the first thing you see is Faye, the woman behind the bar, who sees you as you all step in, and she goes, "Oh, I'm glad you're back. Person here to talk to you." And you look over and you see this.
Uh-oh. Wow. Huh. Uh-oh.
On the table next to this creature, is a bottle of wine and a glass, and it smiles as it sees you walk in, and he's like, "Finally, my friends have arrived. Thank you, Faye. Send us over a couple more bottles on my coin, if you would." She's like, "You got it, sir." It's obviously the first thing, Titus, frankly, the first thing you notice is that your guess is that she's not seeing the same thing that you guys are seeing. Which is this creature. It takes a minute.
Is this Kazik?
It takes a minute for the illusion to sort of resolve itself, but it is indeed Kazik sitting there at the table with a bottle of wine in his, a glass of wine in his hand. He says, "I have been looking for you.
Or late.
My. It's fine to be here in the city of Seaquen. I'd hoped that we would meet beforehand, perhaps at Vidor, perhaps even before. For as it occurs to me, please sit, enjoy the wine, but have a glass of wine. Let's talk. It's been a while since I've had the pleasure of your company. But as I recall, we have not as yet completed the deal that we did over a week ago, that the items that you promised me have yet to be delivered. And I'm beginning to wonder, probably an error, that you may have decided not to deliver them to me at all. That's certainly not the case, is it? Is it?
No,
What was our deal with him?
we have the copies.
Yeah, we
We
had the
did-
copy.
we did the copies.
We gave him the stuff, and then what was he gonna do for us?
He
Yeah.
was going to do jack shit other than leave you alone.
Yeah, basically.
Oh,
So we still have the copied documents that he needed
Yeah.
to get himself free. We just
Mhm.
haven't seen him until now, so we can give those to him.
yeah.
That would be wonderful. I'll take receipt of those documents now, if you don't mind.
Oh, come
You
on.
guys, do you guys go get them?
Oh,
No.
I assume one of us has.
He's got to
them.
buy us drinks first.
Yeah.
He already did. He said,
I mean, drinks.
Spay has sent over like 3 bottles of wine.
Okay, all right.
Poe had those, if I remember right.
That's
Yeah.
right. I think, yeah, Poe had
Send
them.
us drinks,
So
yeah. We'll give him
if you-
documents.
if they're in your room or something other than on you, then yeah, I mean, I expect you'll go get them. Otherwise, I assume they're in something on your person.
Would you guys? So that's a good question. Would you guys like carry those around with you?
I probably would leave them in.
I live in his room.
Yeah.
All right.
Unless you tell me that they're going to be stolen, Les, then I would have them on.
No, I mean, if they're up in your room, they're safe. Frankly, nobody knows you have them except for him. So, I mean, for anybody that may or may not have been watching you guys, which you've detected that you don't think that anybody has been, by all intents and purposes, you guys delivered the case with the documents to the Lyceum as you promised Torin. In fact, and that, anybody watching would have easily been able to tell that it was the contents of case that prompted the War Council that suddenly was invaded by the elves. So it was you guys set that in motion.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he goes. So yeah, nobody else besides you guys really knows that you guys have a copy. In fact, I think you guys made that copy when you guys were still out in the woods.
Oh, yeah, we were still in the
Yeah.
fire force when we did that.
You're still well in the fire force. Yeah, nobody would know.
Yeah, we expected he'd show back up sooner. He just didn't.
Oh,
I've been a bit.
no.
Eric, you all right there, buddy?
I'm fine. I just spilled my water.
go,
and
go.
my juice.
Go get it clean.
Damn.
So I don't know if we expected him to ever show up, but he has, and we have what we agreed we'd give him. So
Okay, so you guys go upstairs. You bring down the folio of papers and set them on the table, I assume, that kind of stuff. He's like, he looks at them with ill-concealed glee and begins to page through them, sort of looking at various things. Ah, yes. This is damning, isn't it? You can see him murmuring to himself as he sort of gestures to you to enjoy the wine and have more, please. He goes through those documents. Now then, he goes
so
through.
Do you think that will be enough to complete your whatever it is you're under? Or can you go home after this?
It's possible. It is my hope. The creature that has summoned me here and bound me to this plane is notorious for his perfidy. That being the case, it's my hope that he will see these as a recovery of the documents and will be lured into it. It's obvious that these are not the originals, at least to my eyes. And I know that you have taken other materials to the Lyceum, which I can only assume were another set of documents. I applaud your ingenuity in that regard.
Wait a minute. Hang on a second. Just to confirm something.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we keep the originals out and put the copies in the bag that went to the Lyceum?
I thought it was the other way around.
Yeah, I thought that's what we did.
No, we
Oh,
kept
really?
Our agreement was to give him the originals because that's what he would need to pass muster with whoever summoned
Yeah,
him.
that's
Right.
what I
Right.
was too.
And the
Copies
copies had all
of
the
the
information
documents.
that our people would need.
Yeah, had all the same information, and it's irrelevant that it's a copy to the people of the Lyceum. So we're giving him the original documents.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's what he was going to say. He was like, look, I really needed the originals, but okay, it sounds like that's what you guys did. Okay, so that being the case, he looks at him and he says, this is the entirety of the documents that were in the case.
It is.
Were there any other materials, non-documentation materials of any sort
There
in the
was
case
not.
that were accompanying? There was not. 1 second. All right, he looks at you with strangely piercing demonic eyes, but then lowers them. It seems. I believe you. All right, then. My job here is done. Hopefully, we will never see each other again. On
Well,
this
it may-
plane or any
Agreed.
other.
It may sound odd considering where you're trying to get back to, but I wish you well.
I appreciate the sentiment, if not the actual, the reality of it. Thank you again. He stands up. He says, he goes over to the bar and lays a couple of coins down on the bar and tells Faye. And when you hear him speaking to Faye, it's a completely different voice. So to him, to you guys, he's like, oh yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff. It's a demonic voice. To Faye, it's very. Faye, make sure to take this money. Thank you for allowing me to inhabit a table at your fine establishment for the last little bit. Please send my friends another round of whatever they wish. Charge it to this and add to yourself. Keep for yourself whatever is left. I very much appreciate your time. And he looks at you guys and said, "Farewell, Gate Pass," and walks out the door. So now you've delivered to Zaggy that thing. Hopefully he gets loose, but we'll have to see if that's the case. All right. Other than that,
Now I finally understand. This making deal with demon stuff is pretty cool.
it works. Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Although he was a devil, not a demon, but still.
All right.
That's how you can deal with him, because the demon wouldn't necessarily uphold his end. The
Right.
devil will. They'll just
Yeah. So you guys know that he is, I believe, I'd have to look. Yeah, he's a bearded devil.
Yeah, he's a bearded devil.
But he does use a variety of different things. You don't know that you've ever seen him in his natural state. He always is cloaked in various kinds of illusionary kinds of things. Sometimes, mostly he looks sort of like this, sort of a devilish creature of indeterminate lineage. But he's certainly not waltzing into the supreme squid with his wiry beard and his devilish horns sticking out, that kind of thing. He definitely looked to you guys much different than he looked to Faye, because Faye was like, "Thank you kindly," that kind of stuff, and she, seemed to be just a regular customer.
Yeah,
She didn't react at all.
The absence of her freaking out suggests that his illusion was good.
Yeah. So I just want to let you guys know that this particular image here, I did. Have you guys heard about the AI generated artificial intelligence generated art?
No.
You guys have never seen that before or heard of that before? So Tom Rowe actually told me about this one. It's called DALL-E, DALL-E. I don't know why they call it that, but basically you type something in to it's almost like a search bar, and it generates art for you. And so I typed in "devil in a medieval inn," and this was one of the images that it came up with. And this is purely generated by computer, by artificial intelligence.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought this looked really cool. I had to use it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It is cool.
But if you're interested in trying it out, let me know. Send me out, and I'll send you the link to it, and you guys can test out your AI stuff. I've been using it here and there to try and generate. I mean, sometimes Google Images doesn't give you exactly what you want.
I'd like the link. I'd like the link a lot. Thank you.
All right, I'll send you the link. I'll send. You know what? I'll send it to all you guys, and you can use it or not, or discard it as you wish. All right. So you guys enjoy the wine, and the next day, it starts out clear, but you can see that there is some rain coming in, and the night of the play is going to be rain. But you're hoping. The rumor is, people. So there are other wealthy people that stay at the Supreme Seaquen or the Supreme Squid, and you're hearing, some of them you hear talk about they're going to play tonight too. Oh, I've seen it twice already. It's great, that kind of stuff. The actors are fantastic. They don't use any illusions. Have you understood that? Oh yeah, I've heard such a thing. There people are talking about it, and they say that the hydromancer Seaquen is going to be working to make sure that if the rain is still happening, that he'll be able to put a stop to it for a little while. So that the intermissions are usually done by they're usually had on deck. There's a bar on deck, and people avail themselves during the intermission of cocktails and things like that. And she says, if it's raining, that kind of sucks, but hopefully Seaquen, the hydromancer, has said that he'll make sure that everything's working according to plan. As the day progresses and you guys go about your various chores and meetings and things like that, does anybody want to do anything or buy anything or take care of any particular business before you guys head for the play?
I got one thing that I didn't talk about yet. Just
okay.
I want to touch base with Simeon again and just try to get a feel for a timeline as far as what he's planning with Gatekeep and the teleportation setup.
Oh, okay. So you visit him so this would probably be 36 hours after the War Council. The elvish ships haven't shown up yet, and what Simeon will tell you is you don't know, but basically he's like, look, we've been studying the documents that you brought that are particular to teleportation, and we've been able to do a couple of small teleportations of inert material without it coming back destroyed, and we're confident we're gonna begin doing for lack of a better term, animal testing later this afternoon to see if we can transport a living creature without it being immolated. And if that works, then basically I've already had a couple of my students volunteer to do some very minor dimension doors and see if anything, under controlled circumstances and with healers standing by, whether or not that could do it. But we think all of our preliminary investigation has been successful, so we think that maybe maybe we are able that we can counteract the teleportation. Now we can't. The problem of teleportation is regional. The magic that has been done is significant and it covers a wide area. You guys faced it in Gate Pass. We faced it here, which is over 100 miles away. So obviously this is a significant piece of magic. What we're looking at is for solutions whereby we can invest with the counter magics into medallions or some sort of symbol or something that can be wearing a pin of some sort that we can invest in those kind of things, and that would allow the wearer or the user to use that as a focus, and it would counter the effects of the teleport. As of yet, we haven't been able to come up with a universal counteraction that will essentially remove the effect completely for the entire region, but we're working on it. But that's first steps. Right now, we're going to probably be doing animal testing later this afternoon. Tomorrow, after the party or after the theater, after the play tonight, tomorrow we'll probably start. If the animal testing goes well, we'll start on volunteers. And if that works, then what we'll do is we'll start investing these tokens so that they so that we can start spreading that around and at least individuals be able to use teleport. So I guess I ask you, if all things go well, is this something that you or your friends may need?
Definitely. I mean, we don't have access to those spells yet, but we will soon.
Are you not sufficient level to cast Dimension Door?
Nope.
Not
Uh,
yet? Okay.
4th level spell, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Well, certainly, you know, since you're providing such valuable information to me and working, you know, obviously for the better of this town, you know, we will absolutely once we've gotten, you know, the military and some of my thaumaturges out of the, you know, out of the way, and we've tested it satisfactorily, we'll see to getting you and your you know, and the spellcasters in your group, you know, whatever they need. You're on my list.
Great, sounds good. Might need it if these elves block everything up.
He gets thoughtful when you say that, and he's like, "Look, I'm of two minds of the elvish plan. You know, on one hand, I'm a bit taken aback at the presumptions of us. I've known you know, the elves of which we speak, whose names I personally the DM has forgotten momentarily, but I've worked with them in the past, and certainly I've always been of the impression that the elves of the plains and the people of Seaquen have been at one mind and have been allies. That said, I mean, you were here at the War Council. You saw the contentiousness about and the differing aims that each faction, each group has, and we didn't even get to talk to everybody. You know, the reality is they're not wrong. I don't like giving up. You know, putting the fate of Seaquen in the hands of non-Sequeners. But I don't know that we. Well, one, I don't know that we have much of a choice. The elves seem to have decided, but I also know that it's going to cause a lot of problems. There are a lot of people in this town, and you saw some of them, who wield a fair amount of influence, who are absolutely unwilling to submit to elvish rule for whatever reason. And now that may be short-sighted. I think it's short-sighted, but it is what it is. I mean, it is a fact. I just don't know what's going to happen to the city. He looks at you. He's like, look, my first and foremost responsibility is the safety of my students and the safety of this school. I have men like Captain Rambush and General Seckart who are aligned with me on that, and that is going to be their first priority as well. As for the rest, it is my hope that everything works well, and that the elves will be good rulers and good leaders, and that when the time comes and the danger has passed, that they will retreat back to their grasslands and plains and leave Seaquen back to us to administer as the people of Seaquen see fit. But I have but I can't see the future any more than you can.
Seaquen is predominantly human, is that right? Or
Predominantly human, but significant populations of dwarves, half elves, hobbits, some gnomes, although very few, mostly human though. Not very many elves live here. Some half elves, but not very many elves, pure elves themselves. Most of them, most elves are content to live in the grasslands of the Darkreach Plains.
yeah. So
That's their home.
This is just a strategic situation to them, and they're just too arrogant to try to negotiate. I mean, they're just being elves. It's typical.
Are you saying that to Simeon?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, Simeon would sort of smile ruefully and basically say, elvish pride is very substantial. He goes, I've worked with the elves of Darkreach Plains, and many of them I consider to be my friend, and I know that they consider me to be their friend. And I've hosted many elvish students in my school, and I'm happy to do so in the future. But yes, you're absolutely right. I would say it's less arrogance than a surety of rightness. He'll smile. He says, it's the rare elf that isn't absolutely certain that their course of action that they've decided upon isn't the correct one. And I can see from the look in those elves' eyes that were at the War Council the other night that they are absolutely convinced that this is the correct course of action for all of us. Have you learned anything over the last course of the day that might be of use to me? as long as we're here talking.
You want me to roll a diplomacy? Perception?
Well, he's just asking a question.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to tell me that unless, I've
Well,
been looking and listening.
If you hesitate for a moment, he will say, I do have one item that might have come to your notice. He goes, obviously, as the headmaster of a magical school, I am very much in tune with a variety of arcane energies. And as you can imagine, there's a professor on my staff who is expert and well informed and sophisticated about extraplanar activity. He informed me this morning that yesterday evening at some point, an extraplanar creature not among those current extraplanar creatures that we are aware of in the city of Seaquen, arrived here, stayed for several hours, and then departed. Now we weren't able to. He wasn't able to determine specifically where this creature was located in time for us to go and see to it ourselves and observe it ourselves to see what it was doing. But I was just curious, did you or any of your friends happen upon some obviously extraplanar creature? I know that's a very odd question, but I have to ask.
Yeah, I'm gonna try a bluff on that one. I don't trust him near enough to talk about that with him.
Okay. 6.
Yeah.
What do you tell him?
I know nothing.
All right, so you're basically like, well, I haven't heard that extraplanar creatures. I don't even know what those are. What are there planes? What I'm clueless about this kind of stuff. So he kind of looks at you funny. He's like, all right, well, I thought I'd ask. We were able to detect the presence of a presence of an extraplanar creature that is not one of the extraplanar creatures that we keep tabs on here in Seaquen. As a normal, that are here as a lot of the time. So we were just curious if you'd heard anything. He seems to brush it off, but you get the impression that he probably believes that there's more to the story than you're letting on. From the adage of the lady doth protest too much, methinks, kind of thing. So a 6 is not great.
He's got his cigarettes and I got mine.
There you go. Okay. All right. Anybody else want to do anything? The play occurs. All right. So you guys begin moving down to the water area.
Yep.
Cove. That's what it is. And you can see already there are people lined up on the little on one of the little piers that has been designated to take people. There's a line of boats that have these big, tall sort of lanterns lit them, and they've got little like sort of cloths and stuff and cushions on the seats as they come by and pick up people. You see probably 30 or 40 people sort of queuing up, talking amongst themselves and that kind of stuff. Vondram, you're walking with Ono, and Ono's like, this seems like the worst possible situation for a monk. But you do see Xavier sort of coming in the distance. You also see that he has a very tall human with him. This guy's probably 6'8" or 6'9", very tall, very lanky. He has a long sword at his hip, and he seems to
Lieutenant.
He's the lieutenant. Yeah. So Xavius approaches and grabs your wrist warmly and shakes your hand warmly. Vondram, my friend, it's good to see you again. Are you sure that I cannot change your mind about attending the play?
Absolutely, my friend. I hope it is everything you wish it to be. My friend Wraith and Mono here will have a fine time. Enjoy yourself. By all means.
I'm certain I will. Perhaps we have a time for a quick drink before we go.
Fabulous.
Let me introduce you before I depart. Let me introduce you to my assistant. This is Lieutenant Gauss. He has been with me. He also was in service with me with the lady Deseni and Regretta. He reaches out his hand. Any friend of Xavier's is a friend of mine.
I incline my head and shake his hand.
He leans over to Xavier and said, my understanding is, sir, if there's a small fisherman's bar right over there, it might be a good place for us to get a quick pre-theater drink if that's what you wish. And he looks at both of you and Ono as well.
It's good to me.
All right, so you guys just sort of depart over there. The rest of you, I'm assuming, get in line to sort of get on the boats.
Sure.
Okay, so it takes a little while, but eventually it's your turn, and you get into these little Johnny boats that happen, and there's obviously hired hands, and they're like, "Welcome to the theater. Please step lightly into the boat. We will take you to the Wayfarer's theater. That kind of stuff." And they're sort of like, "Welcome," and you get in the boats, and they sort of take you over there. As you hove closer, you can see that it's a large, very tall. I mean, so when they talk about it being a boat, it's sort of not really a boat. It's more like a boat-shaped thing in the middle of the water. It looks like a boat, and they've designed it to sort of look like a boat. But if you've ever been to Las Vegas and you've seen the pirate ship in that one thing outside of that one hotel, it looks like a boat, but it's obvious that it's not a boat. This boat you could never sail it. It's made up of, I mean, it's sort of it's a building in the shape of a boat plopped in the middle of the cove, and it's been there for a long time, obviously, and you can see other boats are sort of sailing around it, and there's barnacles and things on it and that kind of stuff, but there's these big sort of wide gang ramps that the little Johnny boats come up to, and you come up there, and there's a party, sort of a cocktail party going on, and as you guys approach the boat and sort of disembark, get off and go on to the main deck. No problem, Eric. I'm sorry you spilled your sangria, dude. As you get on the main deck, immediately you see Giorgio, the guy you met a couple of days ago at the War Council, the guy who brought over the tickets, immediately starts moving. He sees you and he's like, and he sees you and immediately begins moving over to where you are standing. And he's like, friends, Titus, I can see you there. Poe, Lord Polarm. It's wonderful to see you. Arendar, Lord Arendar, and Wraith, your brother is with you. Fantastic. He comes over and he's shaking everybody's hand and comes to say, he's like, and so this is Giorgio, by the way. And he comes over and he's like, I'm so glad you could make it. Where is Lord Ono of the Twisted Iron? Is he ill? Can he not attend tonight?
Sure, let's go with that.
That's sad. And Mr. Vondrum of Gabal's school, is he not here as well?
As far as you know.
Wow, it saddens me that they have not been able to, that they won't be able to attend. Perhaps they will come later, join us.
Sure, let's assume that.
Well, let us hope that whatever ails them is fixed by the time, and perhaps they will be able to arrive and take advantage of maybe they can come in the second act. That would be wonderful. In the meantime, Milady Ellicott has asked that you come down into her salon. She wishes to meet you both. She wishes to meet you and perhaps have a small glass of brandy before the show begins. Please accompany me. And he grabs on one hand he wraps an arm around Arendar and another one around Wraith and begins moving forward, sort of arm in arm with you guys, breaking
Wait a
through
minute.
thing.
I'm not there.
Great.
Why are you not there?
I was
Oh, that's
never
right. You're
going to
not
go.
there. All right. So then it's Arendar and Titus.
There we go.
He sort of grabs onto. Is that your sense motive roll, the 2?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure this guy out and not doing very good.
He's obviously a theater nerd. He's obviously one of those guys that gets massively excited about everything. But
Yeah.
he definitely wants, he's definitely been bidden to bring you guys down to meet this woman. Yeah, I mean, if Titus, you do a check too. He says his motive. I mean, he doesn't seem to have any other motive other than introducing you to his boss.
Well, since everybody else sucks at that role, I'm going to try to suck at that role too.
All right, let's have it. 21. All right. Well,
We've all got.
you do suspect that maybe the peppy, bubbly child of the theater, hyper excited kind of thing might be just a bit of a put on. He just seems just a little too chirpy,
Yeah.
a little too interested, a little too, a little too happy about stuff. But I mean, you don't really. You're not sure of a motive behind it. It might be that he's just freaking tired of having to do this kind of shit all the time. It
Right.
could be that he's just like, can we please, it might be that he has to put on this sort of like peppy
That's
face
his job.
because that's his job, right? So you're not sure if it's just that, but it does seem to be a bit contrived to your eyes.
Okay.
All right. He leads you down a set of stairs on the boat to a rearward area, and down into it's sort of a little stairs that goes down into the ship somewhat, and then he takes you. There's a little corridor, and you can see a couple of doors, and then it stops, and you can see he just sort of like goes, "Madam, they're here." They're here. The people that the people from Gate Pass that you were so desperate to meet. I brought them to you. You hear a languid voice from inside. Well, bring them in. And he opens the door, and you go into the stateroom, which is apportioned like a sort of almost a. Well, it's very sumptuous. A lot of silks, a lot of lace, a lot of things. It's very sort of. You would almost go boudoir, but it just hangs back from it a little bit. There's a large dressing table. You can see racks of clothes, a lot of which clothes look like costumes and things of that nature. That you're like, surely she doesn't wear this stuff all the time. And in a large sort of very luxuriously upholstered chair is a woman of late middle age, I guess, and she sort of dramatically sort of spins around to see you. And it's like, yes, my guests, wonderful to see you. She has a book in her hand and a green furred cloak, and she says, please sit down. And there's a table. Giorgio, please arrange for refreshments. Indeed, right away, madam. And she says, please sit, as she sort of very languidly gestures. She's like, thank you so much for agreeing to come and see my latest play and meet with me beforehand. I had heard so much about our latest visitors from the south, from Gate Pass, and such a sad story of what's going on there. I couldn't help but wish to meet you and to make your acquaintance. I know that now that you're here in Seaquen, I'm certain that we'll all be fast friends. Please sit. And at that, Giorgio is sort of putting little glasses in front of everybody and pouring out what smells to be a really good brandy. Please, there's plenty from where that came from. Indulge yourselves. And I was just very curious. I wanted to meet you, and I wanted to ask you, how has been your introduction to my fair city so far? How have you liked Seaquen? I understand completely the the difficult circumstances that brought you here. But I do hope that my city has been welcome to you. Please tell me, what are your first thoughts now that you've been coming up on 4 days in my lovely city of Seaquen? How do you like it so far?
She's greeted with crickets.
So quiet. I understand this is probably quite new to you. I don't know what the theater is like in Gate Pass, but I'm going to go and assume that it's more rudimentary than what we provide here, the entertainment we provide here. Please speak freely and have a sip of the brandy. Please tell me, have you enjoyed being in Seaquen so far? Again, despite the current unpleasantness going on in the hinterland.
It's all
You guys are
right.
just going to sit there like a bunch of dorks.
It's fine. It's
Arvindar is going to look at the other two and say, if you want me to take this conversation, I can, but it's probably not going to go all that well. And he'll say it in front of everyone just like that.
Ono was deferring to Titus, assuming he would take over as he's the charismatic one.
Hard like tendencies.
Can we just get on with the play?
Well, she seems a bit put out in that, she's trying to be a good host and you guys are being incredibly rude, frankly. And, she's like, well, I can see you're probably quite tired and probably anxious to see the play as well.
Yes.
Please enjoy the brandy. Giorgio, obviously, our friends are anxious to see the play. Perhaps you can bring them to their seats.
Just don't bring us to our knees.
At that, you hear another knock on the door. That same one and then 2 knocks.
I'll thank her for the brandy.
And Ellicat is like, who is it? It's I, Sidoneth. I was hoping to find the Titus and his companions in there. Have they joined you for a play drink? And she sort of raises her eyebrows. She's like, oh, yes, of course. Please do enter. And Sidoneth, the hydromancer, comes in. Now he's like, I'm glad I caught you. I wanted to make sure that I'm very pleased that you are here. I want to make sure. I didn't get a chance to talk to you at the after the War Council the other day, but I wanted to make your acquaintance. I won't keep you. Obviously, the play will be starting very momentarily. I don't want to keep you, but I did want to make your acquaintance and welcome you officially to my harbor and to Seaquen in general. It's our hope that perhaps after the play, perhaps we can get together for a drink and talk.
Sure.
Yes.
And I trust that you will be able to put together more words than you have for the lady Ellicat.
Obviously, we'll have more alcohol at that point.
What?
What? Okay. All right. She's like, sorry to disturb you. Enjoy the play. And he leaves and goes back out of the room. And with that, Giorgio sort of was like, all right, guys, you ready to go see the play? Let's go. And please follow me. Lady Ellicat is like, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Perhaps sometime soon we will meet again and be able to chat at more length.
I'm going to confuse the heck out of her and wink at her on the way out.
Wink?
Yeah.
She looks at you curiously, but she doesn't say anything.
I wanted.
All right.
And then we'll just go out.
All right. And then Giorgio is going to lead you to the thing. So in this case, he leads you back out, but instead of going up, you go down again into the thing, and you find yourself in a much larger area. In this case, much larger than the top of the boat. So the boat, the area where there was a cocktail party going on and that kind of stuff, you're definitely underwater at this point. You're in what would normally be the bowels of the ship, and but in this case, it's much larger. It's a wide open space. There's you join at one point. You join other people going down a large spiral staircase into this area where there are seats set up, and you go down and you take seats and begin to watch the play. And let's see if this friggin' works.
Is it awesome?
Oh, God, it did work. Okay, great. Hold a sec. Let me check something. God darn it.
It's not Shrek on ice, is it?
Damn it, how did you know? Why is it not working? Oh, I'm sorry, man. I don't know why this is working. Hold on, I'm gonna try Arendar here. Hold on a second. All right, dynamic lighting. Ah, that's why. Let's see if this works.
I see something.
Okay, let me.
Mike, do you really see something?
Yeah,
I see black.
the left half of my screen is black. The right half of my screen has all kinds of stuff in it.
That is exactly what it should be. So hold on, let me get here. That's Poe. Poe, can you see?
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna hold on. Let me do Wraith. Oh, Wraith's not there. Shit.
Yeah, I'm not there.
Okay,
You're
hold on.
not there. Oh,
Let's do Titus. See if this works.
Titus is there.
oh my gosh! Did you do that on purpose?
What?
Put Bucket of Sass right next to me.
Yes.
Where else would she be? She-
Titus, can you see it?
Yes.
All right. Let me get a quick light here, so that everybody else can see.
She's got a thing for Arendar.
She does have a thing for Arendar. I knew it. Everybody knows it.
So she's kind of like a cat. The more you abuse her and like try and get away from her, the more they want to be next to you.
She's not a cat. All right, hold on.
Exactly like a cat. The more allergic you are, the more they'll end up
The
in your
more they
lap.
want, the more they want to be right next to you.
Or on your lap, on your head, whatever.
Uh-huh.
All right, hold 1 sec. Let's see if this works as well. Bright light.
If you want everyone to see, can't you just whatever you've
Well,
done
that's what
with-
I'm doing. I want to
whatever you've
make
done
that.
with us do with whatever character you're logging in with your video thing as.
Hold on, I'm gonna do. Hold on, I think I got this. Hold on, here we go. Ta-da! You guys
Huh.
see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Can everybody see?
I see.
All right.
Yeah.
So what you're looking at is the bottom of the Wayfarers Theater. It's essentially the bottom level. You can see this area here is a stage, and you can see there are actors and actresses already on there, emoting like crazy. I don't know why that guy's. He's not supposed to be there. The seats, there's probably 60 seats, maybe 50 seats. You guys are sort of sitting in the back. You can also see that, certain people that have joined. In this case, you can see Xavius, you can see Laura Beck, you can see Nordbert, and you can see Simeon. And Simeon will actually turn around. He'll give you a wave. They're sort of sitting in the front. You guys are sort of stuck in the back. And I'm gonna it's sort of the back of the hall. And Katarina is there as well, sort of, and sitting next to Arendar, and she's like, "Well, if it isn't my old friend Arendar, how are you doing? Come to see the play?" And there's a bunch of other people, townsfolk, things like that. Generally speaking, it looks like a pretty wealthy crew. It doesn't take long, and soon
Rafe, you should be here. We could have magic items in no time if you were in here.
Oh, okay. You're gonna rob these people? Oh my God.
You said they were rich people.
Yeah, but that doesn't automatically mean rob them.
Well, not
That's just rude. All right. So it's not too long. There's just murmurings and stuff talking. And Katarina says, "I've heard about this play." She leans over to you, Arendar, and she says, "I've heard about this play. I've heard it's not that good. Certainly not as good as I've seen in Eladar. So we'll have to see about whether or not I may have to walk out in the middle of it. So don't get alarmed if that happens."
Yeah. Don't worry about the alarm. It won't happen.
Vivid conversationalist as always. She gives you a little nudge. All right, but yeah, so soon the house lights go down a little bit, and you hear, people stop talking and that kind of stuff, and the play begins. Actors come out onto the stage and begin to emote.
On purpose?
Yep. Starting at the back of the theater and cascading forward, you can see lantern flames flickering and vanish, drawing your attention towards the spotlit stage. When only a handful of lanterns remain, violins, cellos, and a tinny drum roll sound from the walls seeming to come from nowhere. As the last lanterns go out, the curtain slowly crawls to the 40-foot high ceiling. And then even the spotlights die, fading like a setting sun, white to orange to blood red. The drum roll rises to a crescendo and then goes silent just as a man strides out on the stage with a spotlight snapping into view on him. He hurries across the stage and casts a furtive glance at the audience, and you recognize the actor under layers of makeup as Giorgio himself, the Wayfarer. He plays the role of an ancient orc geomancer, Toteth Topek, clad in a white traveling robe from ancient times. A serpent dives like a pearly lightning bolt, snapping its jaws shut just as Toteth dives out of reach, and violins cry out in fright from the walls. The geomancer, in this case Giorgio, somersaults to his feet, pulls a long black staff from under his robe. The snarling serpent rises into the air, snarling in rage, its tail whipping past Toteth like a trough of an iridescent wave. Just as the dragon's tail is almost out of reach, Toteth leaps and grabs the tail in one hand, holding his long club of a staff in the other. Drums sound, horns cheer, and the audience gasps as, flying through the air, Toteth clambers up the beast's back, fights off its thundering bites, digs his hand into his eye, and cracks out one of the dragon's teeth with a ferocious swing of his sword. The worm bucks and vanishes into the shadowed sky, and Toteth flips and rolls 20 feet to the ground, stones cracking where his hands and feet strike the ground. The audience stands up and applauds, and so begins the play, The Spectacular Trial of Toteth Topek. And since we're at 10 after 11, we're going to pause there as we start the play, and we will begin this
Intermission.
in 2 weeks, and we'll go back to the play. Sound good?
Yep.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Very much appreciate it.
Thanks, Lev.
And we'll see you in a couple of weeks back at BT.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was in and out. There's a lot going on here. But
one question: did you save the sangria?
No, that's gone. But Asher has a fever and a bad cough, and I'm sort of checking on him.
Yeah, no worries.
But anyway, but yet I was circling nearby, and I heard all that you said.
Okay, good.
Great game. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, appreciate it. Not a lot of combat this one, but I'm sure something's going to happen at this play. You think? I don't know. They got maps.
Yeah, they got a map for it. So.
All
So
right.
we'll see. We'll see
Bye,
what happens
everybody.
next time around. All right.
Thanks,
Good night,
Lev.
you guys. Thanks again.
Bye.
Right, thank you.
Hey, let's hang on for a sec.
All right. Hold on. Let me stop recording.
Stop the recording.